Chapter 1034. The Extraterritorial Battlefield. In the sky, the Son of Heaven waved his right hand and a spatial crack appeared in front of him. The extraterritorial battlefield opened again. The Son of Heaven looked down. Let's go. After saying that, he disappeared. Below, countless young human experts rushed into the sky and entered the spatial crack. Tianhan glanced at Zhou Xian. Let's go. With that, she lightly stomped her right foot and rushed into the sky. Zhou Xian and Tianyan also followed. Not long later, many human experts entered the spatial crack. Beside Tianhan, Zhou Xian looked at the Son of Heaven and thought, "Senior, is the Son of Heaven really that powerful?" Zhu Lu said, "It's not just powerful, it's very powerful. Kid, you might not be able to beat this guy. Of course, it's impossible for him to kill you. Your body has already reached the immortal level, and with those god items, it's too difficult to kill you." Zhou Xian asked, "Senior, is it difficult to reach the immortal level?" Zhu Lu said, "Big brother, do you think it's easy?" Zhou Xian smiled, "I don't think it's that difficult. Look at me, I reached the immortal level in an instant. I think it won't be long before I reach the immortal golden body." Zhu Lu was silent for a moment, then said, "I don't want to talk to you, Zhou Xian." At this moment, Dao Ming suddenly came to Tianhan's side. Dao Ming smiled, "Sister Tianhan." Tianhan suddenly said, "Brother Dao Ming, you can call me Tianhan." Dao Ming was stunned, then smiled, "Tianhan, I heard your sword is half a step into the immortal level. Congratulations." Tianhan nodded, "Thank you." Dao Ming still wanted to say something, but Tianhan suddenly turned to Zhou Xian. "Have you learned the sword before?" Hearing this, Zhou Xian's eyelids twitched. What did this woman sense? Tianhan looked at Zhou Xian, waiting for an answer. Zhou Xian said with smile, "I have never learned sword, I am just a pure body cultivator." Tianhan said in a low voice, "You give me a very strange feeling. When my sword approaches you, it reacts." Zhou Xian laughed. "Maybe it's because I'm handsome." Tianhan was stunned. Meanwhile, Dao Ming suddenly smiled and said, "Brother Xian is a body cultivator?" Zhou Xian nodded. "Body cultivator." Dao Ming glanced at Zhou Xian, smiled and did not speak. Right at this moment, the scene before their eyes changed, and in next to no time, they'd appeared in the Outerium battlefield. Not far away from them stood a group of sky demons, led by Lin Emo. Lin Emo looked at Tianzi and smiled, "Let's exchange a few moves?" Tianzi smiled, "Come." With that said, he suddenly punched out. Rumble. This punch caused the expressions of everyone in the surroundings to change. Because at this moment, the entire heavens and the earth had become illusory, and it seemed as if the heavens and the earth were unable to endure this punch. Zhou Xian was slightly shocked as well because the might of this punch had greatly exceeded his expectations. Tendo fist. Dao Ming's expression was extremely solemn as he stood by Zhou Xian's side. "I never expected that the legendary Tendo fist would actually be so formidable." Tendo fist. Zhou Xian looked towards the distance. Lin Emo suddenly pressed his palms together, and then he suddenly blasted them forward. Sky Demon Palm. Bang. A black cloud converged behind Lin Emo, and then a black palm that could hold up the sky suddenly stretched out and smashed down towards Tianzi. Rumble. An explosion resounded like a thunderclap, and the heavens and the earth trembled in fear. Rumble. Rumble. The space in the surroundings suddenly shook violently while numerous strands of formidable force shook the surroundings incessantly, causing everyone in the surroundings to retreat explosively. Tianhan suddenly moved forward with her sword, and a strand of powerful sword intent swept out from her sword to resist the force. However, she was still pushed over 30 m back. As for Zhou Xian, this force didn't affect him at all. However, he still pretended to retreat 300 m. He had to keep a low profile. Right now. Zhou Xian had just stopped when Tianyan suddenly appeared by his side and she said, "What are you putting on an act for?" Zhou Xian gazed at Tianyan and she said, "You're not weaker than Tianzi, right?" Zhou Xian was shocked when he heard this. Did she make a guess? Right at this moment, Tianzi and Lin Emo suddenly vanished at the same time. In the next moment, an expanse of white light and black light collided in the sky, and the entire world trembled once more while the ground in the surroundings collapsed. Zhou Xian gazed at the two of them. Needless to say, they really were very strong. He couldn't underestimate the people of this world. In the sky, Tianzi suddenly waved his right hand, and an illusory white spear pierced through the air. With this spear, the entire world became illusory and the surrounding space even began to crack. On the other side, Lin Mo's lips curled up slightly and he suddenly punched out. Rumble. The moment the two forces collided, the entire sky turned pitch black. But very quickly the shattered space returned to normal, and Tianzi and Lin Mo appeared in front of everyone. The two of them faced each other from a distance of 300 m away. Tianzi had his right hand behind his back and he had a faint smile on his face. Lin Mo's lips curled up slightly, and his right hand clenched into a fist that contained a powerful force. Tianzi laughed. Still want to fight? Lin Mo nodded. Of course. After all, life and death is a matter of life and death. With that, he was about to make a move, but at this moment, Tianzi suddenly said, I have something to say, but I don't know if you're willing to listen. Lin Mo looked at Tianzi. What? Tianzi laughed. In today's world, experts from all eras have gathered. Whether it's your heavenly demon race or my Tao protector, it's impossible for you to dominate the fifth dimension. Not only will you not be able to dominate the fifth dimension, but you might even be swallowed by other forces. What do you think? Lin Mo laughed. Do you want to make peace? Tianzi said, You're the strongest of the heavenly demon race's younger generation, the future of the heavenly demon race. My attitude and thoughts are very important, aren't they? Lin Mo fell silent. Tianzi laughed. Go back and think about it. If you want to fight, I'll fight you anytime. After a moment of silence, Lin Mo turned and left. Tianzi returned to the ground, looked at the people in front of him and smiled. If there's anything you don't understand about cultivation, you can ask me. Maybe I can help you solve your doubts. Hearing this, everyone was overjoyed and some people went to ask Tianzi for advice. Xian glanced at Tianzi. It had to be said that Tianzi's status in the Tendo star field was very high. However, this was normal. The Son of Heaven was someone recognized by the Tendo star field, and the Tendo star field believed in Tendo. It could be said that, to a certain extent, the Son of Heaven represented the Tendo star field. About an hour later, Tianzi suddenly looked at Xian and he smiled. You're a body cultivator? Xian was stunned and then he smiled. Yes. Tianzi walked in front of Xian, looked at Xian and smiled. Your Excellency hit it well. Xian quickly shook his head. No, I'm just an ordinary person. Tianzi laughed. Brother Xian, you can cultivate your physical body too. No, to this extent you're not an ordinary person. Are you interested in joining my Tao protector? Join the Tao protector? Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Join the Tao protector. This was not an easy thing because the Tao protector was very strict about accepting people. In the Tendo star field, there was a saying that the Tao protector was not a mediocre person. Everyone did not expect that Tianzi would actually invite Xian to join the Tao protector. Xian himself did not expect it. Join the Tao protector? This did not seem to be a bad thing. Xian said with a smile. Well, can I join? Tianzi nodded. You are qualified to join. Xian said, All right, I'm willing to join. Tianzi smiled slightly and his palm opened, revealing a token. At this moment, an old man suddenly appeared beside Tianzi, and the old man said in a deep voice, You can't be so hasty. Tianzi glanced at the old man and smiled. It's fine. The old man still wanted to say something, but Tianzi laughed. Don't tell me I don't even have this power? The old man did not say anything and quietly left. Tianzi handed the token to Xian. From now on, you are one of my Tao protectors. Xian took the token and said, I will be loyal to the Tendo. Loyal to the Tendo. Tianzi laughed. Brother Xian, you are an interesting person. At this moment, a sky demon suddenly appeared in front of everyone. That sky demon looked at Tianzi. Your Excellency, Lin Mo invites you to the border river. Border river. No. At this moment the old man suddenly appeared beside Tianzi, and the old man stared at the sky demon. Why didn't he come here? That sky demon did not speak and just looked at Tianzi. Tianzi suddenly laughed. I will go. The old man wanted to say something but Tianzi laughed. There is nothing to be afraid of. After that he turned to look at Xian. Brother Xian, are you willing to go with me? Xian looked at Tianzi and smiled. All right. Tianzi laughed. Let's go. Just like that, Tianzi brought Xian to the border river. On the way, Tianzi laughed. Brother Xian, you are able to train your body to the immortal level. It is not easy. Xian looked into the distance and smiled. You can see it? Tianzi nodded. Brother Xian, as far as I know in this Tendo city, there are very few people who train their body. As for you, my Tao protector has also investigated, but he couldn't find your identity. Are you from the outside? Yi Xian nodded, yes. Tianzi laughed, I won't ask you why you are here. Yi Xian shook his head, I am here for revenge. Tianzi looked at Yi Xian, who are you looking for? Yi Xian laughed and did not speak. Tianzi suddenly opened his palm and in his hand there was an ancient book. He handed it to Yi Xian. This is the Tendo avatar. I am not good at training my body, so it is useless to me. I will give it to you. Tendo avatar? Yi Xian was a little surprised. Do you cultivate your physical body? Tianzi nodded, yes. At this time ninth floor said, this is good stuff. The value of this thing is even higher than your diamond body and evil spirit dead body. If you succeed in training it, your body will improve further. Yi Xian looked at Tianzi. Why? Tianzi laughed. Just treat it as making a friend. Yi Xian thought for a moment, then kept the Tendo avatar. Then he bent his finger and 100 strands of purple gas appeared in front of Tianzi. This is for you. Seeing this purple gas, Tianzi's eyes flashed a trace of surprise. Such pure spiritual energy. Yi Xian laughed. This is for you. Tianzi was silent. Yi Xian smiled. Just treat it as making a friend. Tianzi laughed. Brother Xian is interesting. After that he kept the purple gas. Chapter 1035. Not long after, Yi Xian and the Son of Heaven arrived at the Boundary River. The Boundary River was very long and the water was murky. Lin Mo was already waiting by the Boundary River. There was a woman by Lin Mo's side. She wore a black dress and a black mask. Her true appearance could not be seen, but her aura was very powerful. Lin Mo glanced at Yi Xian, then said with a smile, Tianzi, I thought you came alone. Tianzi smiled. You don't mind bringing a friend over, right? Of course you can't do anything about it. Lin Mo's gaze once again landed on Yi Xian. A body cultivator? Yi Xian nodded. Lin Mo looked at Yi Xian for a moment, then looked at Tianzi. I've thought about what you said to me just now. Tianzi smiled. What do you think? Lin Mo shook his head. You and I can't change anything. Tianzi shook his head. Lin Mo, you're a smart person. You should know that if we continue to fight, both sides will suffer. Moreover, the fifth dimension calamity will arrive soon and chaos will descend. At that time, our chances of survival will be even slimmer. Then he turned to look at the sky and said, outside the Tendo Star Zone, there are the boundless underground city, the land of nothingness, the land of immortality, the great barren kingdom led by the undefeatable Arrow and the divine spirit clan and the devil clan. None of these forces is weaker than us. After a moment of silence, Lin Mo shook his head. You forgot something. Tianzi looked at Lin Mo. What? Lin Mo smiled and said, your core objective as a Tao protector is to protect Tendo and allow the fifth dimension tribulation to peacefully descend upon this world. As for my heavenly demon race, it is to prevent the fifth dimension tribulation from descending upon this world, isn't that right? Tianzi was silent. Lin Mo slowly walked towards Tianzi. Tianzi, you are the heaven's chosen one. You protect the Tendo and the world protector, but now, Tianzi suddenly said, we need to change. Lin Mo stopped in his tracks and looked at Tianzi. You want to change your original intention of being a Tao protector? Tianzi asked, can't I? Lin Mo shook his head, you want to die. Tianzi smiled and said, everything depends on human effort. At the side, Yi Xian glanced at Tianzi. At this time, Zhu suddenly said, he really wants to die. Yi Xian asked, what do you mean? The person on the 9th floor did not speak again. Right at this moment, Lin Mo spoke abruptly. Son of Heaven, you're a huge threat to my heavenly devil clan. We can't allow you to live. Tianzi narrowed his eyes. At this moment, the space around him and Yi Xian suddenly trembled. Soon, countless ancient runes appeared in the surrounding space. These ancient runes were like a cage that trapped the surrounding space. Ambush. Tianzi frowned. At this time, from the distant horizon, an angry roar suddenly rang out. Impudent. As the voice faded, an extremely terrifying aura suddenly descended from the sky. Sensing this aura, Yi Xian's expression changed. This aura was so strong. The opponent's strength was definitely not weaker than Arrow. The person who attacked was the Tao protector Ping Sheng. At the instant that the Tao Master attacked, a towering giant statue suddenly appeared in the sky. This giant statue faced the sky, and its eyes were filled with an unparalleled domineering aura. Heavenly Devil Clan's clan leader Wuxia. The Heavenly Devil Clan's clan leader faced the sky. Rin Pingxing, your strength has improved a lot these years. In the sky, Rin Pingxing looked down at Heavenly Devil Clan's Wuxia. Is this necessary? Wuxia smiled. This son of heaven is not ordinary. As far as I know, he has already reached the rebirth state a year ago and has even interacted with the Tendo. Am I right? Rin Pingxing's expression was indifferent. You know quite a lot. Wuxia smiled. Rin Pingxing, your Tao protector is too confident. As he spoke, he turned his head and looked down. Kill. As soon as he finished speaking, the ancient runes around Zhou Xian and Tianzi suddenly trembled and gradually turned red. Danger. At this moment, Zhou Xian felt danger. Zhou Xian was ready to escape. At this moment, Zhu Lu suddenly said, "Save him." Hearing this, Zhou Xian frowned slightly. Zhu Lu said again, "Consider it as helping me this time." Zhou Xian did not say anything and looked at Tianzi. Tianzi smiled bitterly. "Brother Xian, I'm sorry for dragging you into this." Zhou Xian said, "Let's charge out together." Tianzi solemnly said, "I'll hold them back later. You go first." Zhou Xian glanced at the Son of Heaven and thought to himself, "Senior, is this guy playing games with me?" Zhu Lu said, "Trust your instinct." Zhou Xian smiled, "I trust you, Senior." With that, he slowly closed his eyes. In the next moment, he suddenly threw a punch to the right. Boom. With this punch, the mysterious runes in the surroundings immediately cracked. Seeing this scene, both Lin Mo and the Son of Heaven were shocked. Zhou Xian looked at Tianzi. "Let's charge out together." Tianzi nodded and suddenly turned around to punch. Tendo Fist. With this punch, the surrounding red runes exploded. However, before he and Zhou Xian could react, two blood-red whips suddenly lashed at their bodies. Bang bang. The two of them felt like they were being slapped flying, but they quickly stopped. Because those shattered red runes had appeared all around them at an unknown time. Formation. Zhou Xian squinted his eyes and looked around. At this moment, Lin Mo's voice suddenly sounded, "Kill Tianzi first." As soon as his voice fell, a blood-red whip suddenly swept at Tianzi's body. Boom. Tianzi's body trembled and the white light around him dissipated. Not only that, even his body became illusory. If there was another whip, his body would definitely collapse. Tianzi's face was somewhat ugly. God-beating whip. As he spoke, he looked at Zhou Xian. "Brother Xian, if you can help me restrain this whip, I have a way to escape." Zhou Xian was silent. Ninth floor suddenly sighed. "Make your choice." He knew that if Zhou Xian wanted to escape, it was very simple. Because Zhou Xian had the Space Dao, the Black Space Sword, and the Devil's Wings, as long as he wanted to escape, no one could stop him. Zhou Xian was indeed a little hesitant. What was his purpose for coming here this time? To take revenge on the Dao Protector. And this Tianzi was a Dao Protector. In all fairness, he did not want to save him. As if he thought of something, Zhou Xian suddenly shook his head and smiled. When did he have so many concerns when doing things? Zhou Xian looked at Tianzi. "I will hold the God-beating whip." Tianzi nodded. "Thank you." At this moment, a pair of devil's wings suddenly appeared behind Zhou Xian. Seeing the devil's wings, Tianzi looked at Zhou Xian deeply and turned around. Boom. A powerful aura swept out from Tianzi's body, and in between his brows, a small Dao word suddenly condensed. At this moment, the blood-red God-beating whip suddenly appeared, and at the same time Zhou Xian suddenly disappeared. Boom. An afterimage directly hit the God-beating whip, and the God-beating whip was directly repelled. However, in the next moment, the God-beating whip once again hit Zhou Xian's body. Bang! Zhou Xian's body trembled and he deeply frowned. He looked at his abdomen where there was a deep crack and the surface of his skin had already split open. Zhou Xian looked at the opposite side and there stood a woman. It was the woman who stood beside Lin Mo, and in her hand was the God-beating whip. The woman looked at Zhou Xian and suddenly the God-beating whip in her hand swept towards Zhou Xian like a bolt of lightning. Zhou Xian stretched out his left hand and a shield appeared in his hand. Sumeru shield. The God-beating whip directly hit the Sumeru shield. Boom. The Sumeru shield trembled violently and the God-beating whip was shaken back. Zhou Xian looked at the woman, and the woman glanced at the shield in Zhou Xian's hand and then said, "Who exactly are you?" Yi Xian turned his head to look at Tianzi, and Tianzi suddenly roared, and the Dao word flew out from between his brows. Boom! A powerful force vibrated from the Dao word, and in an instant the surrounding red runes directly disappeared. The array was dispelled. Tianzi looked at Yi Xian. Brother Xian, let's go. After saying that, he directly rushed into the sky. His speed was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye he disappeared into the horizon. Just as Yi Xian was about to leave, a blood-red braid suddenly swept across the top of his head. Yi Xian raised his shield to block. Bang! This whip directly swept Yi Xian dozens of feet away. Just as Yi Xian was about to attack again, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him, and it was Tianzi who left. Yi Xian looked at Tianzi and Tianzi said, Brother Xian, you leave first. Without the array they can't stop me. Before he finished speaking at this moment, the god-beating whip suddenly hit his body. Bang! Tianzi was directly whipped dozens of feet away. However, this time he was not injured because a white shield appeared on his body, but at this moment the white shield was full of cracks. Tianzi's face was a bit ugly. Brother Xian, this thing has some restraints on me. Yi Xian nodded. I can see it. Tianzi's strength was actually not weaker than him, but in front of this god-beating whip he had no strength to fight back. This god-beating whip had a special power that specifically restrained Tianzi's Xian Qi. Tianzi looked at Yi Xian and smiled. Let's leave together. Just as Yi Xian was about to speak at this moment, Ren Pingxing and Wuxia suddenly disappeared from the horizon. When they appeared again they were already in front of Tianzi and Yi Xian. Wuxia looked at Yi Xian and smiled. So it's young sect leader Fu Wenzong. Yi Xian, I didn't expect you to come here. Yi Xian. When this was said, Yi Xian's face suddenly sank. The other party recognized him. Ren Pingxing glanced at Yi Xian. His expression was calm and he didn't speak. Tianzi looked at Yi Xian and his face was full of shock. You're the Yi Xian who owns the Universal Book Room. Yi Xian smiled. Yes. Tianzi said softly. So it's you. He naturally knew Yi Xian. This was the #1 person on the Dao Protector's kill list. Wuxia looked at Ren Pingxing. The book room is with him and so is Xiao Ta. As long as we kill him we can get the book room. Ren Pingxing's gaze fell on Yi Xian. At this moment, Tianzi stood in front of Yi Xian and looked at Ren Pingxing. Master, he's trying to sow discord. Ren Pingxing said, Move. Tianzi said in a deep voice, Master, he just saved me. Ren Pingxing looked at Tianzi. That book room is related to my Dao Protector's future. Tianzi was silent. Ren Pingxing said again, I know what you're thinking. He just saved you so you don't want to kill him. However, have you thought about us? Could it be that in your heart as a master and countless Dao Protectors, I'm not as good as a person you just met? Tianzi shook his head. Master, you once told me that we must be moral, repay kindness with kindness and take revenge with revenge. If we kill him now it would be repaying kindness with enmity. Ren Pingxing said, Ask him to hand over the book room and Xiao Ta and I won't kill him. Tianzi shook his head again. Master, you can't be like this. Ren Pingxing shook his head slightly. You disappoint me. Tianzi still wanted to say something, but Ren Pingxing suddenly waved his right hand, and a mysterious force directly enveloped Tianzi. Tianzi's expression suddenly changed and the word, Dao, suddenly condensed between his eyebrows. Ren Pingxing was expressionless. Why, you want to attack me? Tianzi quickly said, Disciple doesn't dare. Master, he saved me. Please don't kill him today so I can repay his kindness. Ren Pingxing was silent for a moment and then looked at Yi Xian. Yi Xian, I can give up your book room, I won't kill you and I won't be your enemy. We can turn enemies into friends, but I have a request. That is, you must join my Dao Protector. Hearing this, Wuxia in the distance suddenly narrowed his eyes. Tianzi was overjoyed and quickly looked at Yi Xian. Brother Yi, are you willing to join us sincerely? Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. I'm not willing. Tianzi was stunned. Yi Xian looked at Ren Pingxing and Tianzi and smiled. You two stop acting. If I'm not wrong, you two should have guessed my identity, right? Hearing this, the joy on Tianzi's face suddenly froze, and then gradually returned to calmness. Ren Pingxing looked at Yi Xian and did not speak. Yi Xian looked at the two and smiled. Tianzi, your acting is too much. Think about it, we don't know each other, but the moment you saw me you gave me that Tendo avatar. Is this normal? This is definitely not normal. Moreover, you deliberately invited me here. If I'm not wrong, you actually had the ability to escape just now, but you deliberately pretended to be weak so that I could help you, right? Tianzi smiled and did not speak. Yi Xian continued. Also, you just said to Lin Mo that you want to change the current Dao protector. In fact, you didn't say it for him but for me. Please, do you really think I'm stupid? You want to change? You're not the Dao protector's Dao master yet, what's there to change? If you really had such thoughts, you would definitely not say it at this time, and if you really had such thoughts, the Dao protector would definitely not allow you. So, there's only one explanation, and that is you're pretending in front of me. Saying that, he shook his head and smiled. You too, what's the point of all this fancy stuff? If you want the study room, ask me. If you don't ask me, how would I know you want it? If you say it, I know you want it. If you don't say it, who knows you want the study room? So you have to say it. Tianzi smiled. Since Brother Yi said so. Then I want it. Brother Yi, that study room, can you give it to us? Brother Yi looked at Tianzi and grinned. In your mother's dream. P.S. After getting married, there's a lot of pressure. I really want a ticket. But my skin is thin and I'm too embarrassed to ask for it every day, sigh. Chapter 1036. Haha. Hearing Yi Xian's words, Wuxia, who was nearby, suddenly laughed. The emperor still had a faint smile on his face. There was no anger, only calmness. Ren Pingxing glanced at Yi Xian and said, We underestimated you. However, I'm curious, why do you think you can live? Yi Xian looked at Wuxia. Senior, a friend asked me to send her regards to you. Wuxia smiled. You're plotting against me. But it makes sense, for now I'm the only one who can't protect you. However, I want to know, why do you think I'll help you? Yi Xian smiled. Senior, don't you want to know who asked me to send her regards to you? Wuxia smiled. I'm a little curious. Yi Xian walked in front of Wuxia and bowed. Miss Xiao Dao asked me to send her regards to you. Xiao Dao. As soon as he said that, Wuxia and Ren Pingxing's expressions changed. They naturally knew who Xiao Dao was. She was someone who had lived for tens of thousands of years. This was especially so for Ren Pingxing. Back then, the first Dao master of the Dao protector had some ties with me. According to the records of the people of that time, the first Dao master of the Dao protector, Lin Lang, was extremely respectful to me. Wuxia looked at Yi Xian. She asked you to look for me? Yi Xian nodded. Yes. Otherwise, why would I be here? Wuxia frowned. Why did she look for me? Yi Xian said with a straight face. She said there's something good for you. Wuxia's frown deepened. Something good. Yi Xian nodded. She said there's something good for me to look for you. It's not just my good fortune, it's also your good fortune. I asked her what kind of good fortune it was, and she said that heaven's secrets cannot be revealed. Wuxia looked at Yi Xian and did not speak. Ren Pingxing suddenly laughed. Yi Xian, I've long heard that you're good at bluffing. What, do you think the great Sky Demon clan leader will be fooled by you? As he spoke, he looked at Wuxia. Xiao Dao is a mysterious woman. Why would she like Yi Xian? Yi Xian suddenly opened his palm. In his hand was the Tendo pen. Seeing the Tendo pen, Ren Pingxing and the emperor's expressions changed. A look of surprise flashed across Wuxia's eyes. The brush is in your hands. Yi Xian nodded. Miss Xiao Dao gave it to me. Wuxia looked at Yi Xian. Who is she to you? Yi Xian said with a straight face. My sister. Ren Pingxing suddenly said angrily, Bullshit. Why would this girl recognize you as her little brother? Yi Xian looked at Ren Pingxing. If you don't believe me, ask her. Ren Pingxing clenched his right hand and was about to attack when Wuxia suddenly said, She asked you to find me. Did she tell you anything? Yi Xian looked at Wuxia. She said that the opportunity is right in front of her. Right in front of her. Wuxia stared at Yi Xian. Obviously, he meant that the opportunity was Yi Xian. The Sky Demon clan's opportunity was Yi Xian? Wuxia was silent. He was still in awe of Xiao Dao. This woman was too mysterious. Not only was she mysterious, but she was also powerful. At this moment, a pair of wings suddenly appeared on Yi Xian's back. It was the devil's wings. Ren Pingxing's face darkened when he saw the wings. No one knew what he was thinking. Wuxia looked at Yi Xian. Yi Xian smiled. This was given to me by the devil ancestor. With that, he opened his palm and the Sumeru shield appeared in his hand. This was given to me by the divine spirit clan. Then he took out the torch dragon armor. This was given to me by the torch dragon of the land of eternal life. By the way, I'm good friends with the mutated beast scripture. Very, very good friends. Ren Pingxing and Wuxia looked at Yi Xian. Yi Xian said, "Do you know the one-legged woman in the endless dungeon? She's also my sister." As soon as he said this, a one-legged woman who was washing clothes by the river in the distant endless dungeon suddenly looked up. There was a cold glint in her eyes. Beside the border river, Yi Xian said again, "Do you know the dimension of nothingness? The old man guarding the tomb is my big brother." In the faraway dimension of nothingness, an old man who was sweeping the tomb suddenly looked up. After a moment he shook his head. What the hell? Beside the border river, Yi Xian looked at Wuxia. "Senior, do you know why the elites of so many eras are gathered in this era?" Wuxia glanced at Yi Xian. "You know." Yi Xian nodded. "Let me tell you, my sister Xiao Dao is playing a game of chess, a big game of chess." As he said this, he looked at Wuxia. "Senior, it's not convenient to talk here. Shall we go to the Heavenly Fiend clan?" Wuxia was silent. Beside him, Ren Pingxing looked at Wuxia. "You don't really believe him, do you?" Wuxia said mildly, "Then explain the treasures he has." Ren Pingxing was silent. "Explain? How was he going to explain? Could it be that Yi Xian stole them?" At this moment, Ren Pingxing suddenly attacked. He directly slapped Yi Xian with his palm, but at this moment Yi Xian suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already hundreds of feet away. At this moment he was already in the territory of the Sky Demon clan, and beside him was Wuxia. Wuxia had attacked. Ren Pingxing looked at Wuxia. "You really believe him?" Wuxia turned to look at Yi Xian. "Let's go." With that he turned and left. At this moment the emperor suddenly said, "Brother Yi." Yi Xian turned to look at the emperor and smiled. "What's the matter?" The emperor smiled. "You lost a chance to be friends with me." Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. "You lost a chance to live too." The emperor's lips curled up. "You and I will fight sooner or later. Why don't we fight now? A battle to decide life and death." Yi Xian looked at the emperor. "Don't joke around. You have a path master behind you. How can I kill you?" The emperor said, "Just the two of us. No outsiders will interfere. What do you think?" Yi Xian smiled. "I don't believe you." The emperor said, "You don't dare." Yi Xian smiled. "What if your master can't help but make a move? What will you do?" The emperor smiled. "If I can't defeat you and he makes a move, I'll kill myself. What do you think?" Yi Xian turned to look at Wuxia. After a moment of silence, Wuxia said, "I can stop the Path Master. However, you have to think about it carefully. This person is the Heaven's chosen one. He's so strong that even I can't see through him. Are you sure you want to fight him?" Yi Xian laughed. "I've never been afraid of anyone in the younger generation." Wuxia suddenly asked, "What about the older generation?" Yi Xian's expression froze. At this moment the emperor suddenly said, "Fight?" Yi Xian looked at the emperor and smiled. "Fight? Why not?" As soon as Yi Xian finished speaking, Ren Pingxing, Wuxia, Lin Mo and the mysterious woman disappeared. The emperor smiled. "I've always heard that you're a monster. I hope you won't disappoint me." After that he slowly clenched his right hand and a powerful force quietly gathered. In the distance Yi Xian looked at the emperor calmly. The ninth floor suddenly said, "Don't be careless." Yi Xian said, "Senior, why did you ask me to fight just now?" The ninth floor said, "Justice prevails." Yi Xian frowned. "What do you mean?" The ninth floor said, "You'll know in the future. Also, don't be careless. He's the Heaven's chosen one. He's not as simple as you think." Yi Xian nodded. "I won't underestimate him." After saying that, he looked at Tianzi in the distance. Tianzi smiled and suddenly he threw out a punch. Tendo fist. With a punch, heaven and earth suddenly became illusory. Heaven and earth couldn't withstand the power of this punch. Yi Xian didn't draw his sword. Instead he punched out. It was pure physical strength. Rumble. An earth-shattering explosion suddenly broke out between heaven and earth. Then a powerful force shook the sky, causing Yi Xian and the Son of Heaven to retreat repeatedly. When Yi Xian retreated for about 100 feet, he stopped. Almost at the same time, the Son of Heaven also stopped. Emperor looked at Yi Xian and smiled. Indeed worthy of the immortal physique. Powerful. After he finished speaking, he suddenly soared into the sky. In the air, he slowly closed his eyes and put his right hand together. A powerful force suddenly gathered between the heavens and earth. At this moment the Son of Heaven seemed to be the ruler of this world. Zhou Xian looked at the Emperor without any expression. At this moment the Emperor suddenly pointed down, destruction of heaven and earth. Rumble. A powerful force swept down from the sky. In an instant the entire extraterritorial battlefield began to crack. The power of a finger, destruction of heaven and earth. Below, Zhou Xian was expressionless. His right hand slowly clenched. He still didn't prepare to use his sword. He wanted to see how strong his current physical body was. It was not arrogance but confidence. Not far away, Wuxia looked at the Emperor with a calm expression. However, there was a hint of killing intent in the depths of his eyes. The strength of the Emperor was beyond his expectations. As if thinking of something, Wuxia looked at Zhou Xian. Now he wanted to see how monstrous this young man who was favored by Xiao Dao was. Zhou Xian stomped his right foot and met the attack with a punch. Rumble. A powerful force surged out of Zhou Xian's body like a volcanic eruption. It was pure physical strength. His physical body could shake the world. Wuxia looked at Zhou Xian and said softly, "Immortal physique." It had to be said that Zhou Xian's physical body was ridiculously strong. In this world there were many who had attained the immortal body realm. However, he had only seen one who had attained the immortal body realm at such a young age, and that was Zhou Xian. From afar, Ren Pingxing looked at Zhou Xian with a calm expression. No one knew what he was thinking. In the sky, Zhou Xian punched. A powerful force suddenly erupted between heaven and earth. In an instant the entire sky turned pitch black. Countless powerful forces shook the surroundings like waves. The entire sky was a mess. At this moment, in that pitch-black space, Zhou Xian suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in front of the Emperor. He punched at the Emperor, and the Emperor also punched at Zhou Xian. Tendo punch. Boom. With a loud explosion, the two retreated frantically. At this moment, a golden spear suddenly flew out of the Emperor's hand. The spear pierced through the sky and annihilated everything. God-slaying spear. Killing a god with one spear. Chapter 1037. God-slaying spear. The power of this spear was enough to kill a god. From afar, Zhou Xian finally felt the danger. He knew that this time he couldn't use his body to block it. Zhou Xian opened his left hand, and a golden square shield appeared in his hand. Zimmer shield. Zhou Xian held the shield and pushed forward. Boom. The god-slaying spear was blocked by this move, and a terrifying force shook the heaven and earth. At this moment the entire extraterritorial battlefield was shaking. The space in the sky was constantly shattered by this force, but it was restored to normal by the laws of heaven and earth. In the sky, Tianzi stood with his spear, emitting a domineering pressure. His eyes were indifferent, as if everyone in front of him was an ant. From afar, Zhou Xian held the shield in his left hand and his face had a calm smile. That spear just now was blocked by his Sumeru shield. With the Sumeru shield and his body, he forcefully withstood all the power of Tianzi's spear. Tianzi stared at Zhou Xian, and his right hand held the god-slaying spear tightly. A powerful force suddenly gathered towards him, mobilizing the power of heaven and earth. As the heaven's chosen one, he had the help of heaven. A moment later, Tianzi suddenly roared. He leaped, and the spear in his hand suddenly burst out a bright light. This light was even more dazzling than the sun, and a monstrous spear intent directly shrouded Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian stood in the same place. He had no intention of dodging and he couldn't. Tianzi looked at Zhou Xian and smiled sinisterly. "Let me see how hard your shield is." As his voice fell, he threw the spear in his hand forward. A sharp tearing sound suddenly resounded between heaven and earth. That spear was like a meteor streaking across the sky, heading straight for Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian suddenly stomped his right foot and his whole body leaped up. He directly used the Sumeru shield in his hand to block. Hard block. Boom. As soon as the spear and shield came into contact, a powerful force swept out. Zhou Xian was instantly pushed back a few hundred feet, but at this moment the Son of Heaven only retreated a few dozen feet. Obviously in this confrontation Tianzi had the upper hand. However, in the distance Ren Pingxing's expression was a little gloomy. Although Zhou Xian was at a disadvantage, Zhou Xian wasn't injured. In the air, Tianzi looked at Zhou Xian and thrusted his spear again. Zhou Xian raised his shield to block. Rumble. The Sumeru shield in Zhou Xian's hand blocked Tianzi's spear. Just like that, Tianzi wielded the god-slaying spear and attacked Zhou Xian fiercely. However, Zhou Xian still didn't dodge. He took on every spear strike from Tianzi head-on. In just a short while Yi Xian had taken on hundreds of spear strikes. No matter how fiercely Tianzi attacked, Yi Xian was as stable as a mountain. About half an hour later Tianzi stopped. He stared at Yi Xian. "Are you a tortoise?" Up until now he realized that he couldn't break through Yi Xian's Sumeru shield. If it was just a simple Sumeru shield, Yi Xian definitely wouldn't be able to withstand so many spear strikes from him. Because just the aftershock of the force would be enough to kill Yi Xian. However, not only did Yi Xian have the Sumeru shield, he also had a strong physique. When the Sumeru shield blocked most of the force, the aftershock was equivalent to nothing to Yi Xian's physique. To put it simply, he couldn't do anything to Yi Xian at all. In the distance Yi Xian looked at the Sumeru shield in his hand and smiled. He had to say this Sumeru shield was indeed powerful. Because until now the Sumeru shield in his hand wasn't damaged at all. It was too strong. At this moment Tianzi suddenly smiled and said, "Yi Xian, how about this? You and I don't need external objects." Yi Xian looked at Tianzi and smiled. "Are you retarded? Your external objects aren't as good as mine, and you're telling me that you don't need external objects? Are you joking with me?" Tianzi looked at Yi Xian and was about to speak. At this moment Yi Xian suddenly jumped. He held the shield with both hands and charged towards Tianzi. Pure physical strength and Sumeru shield. Seeing Yi Xian charging towards him, Tianzi squinted his eyes and swept his spear from top to bottom. Boom. With this sweep, the space that had just been repaired by the laws of heaven and earth became illusory. Boom. Yi Xian, along with his shield, was forced to a stop by the spear, and the Son of Heaven was also sent flying dozens of feet away. As soon as he stopped, Yi Xian appeared in front of him again. Rumble. Tianzi was pushed back again. Just like this, Yi Xian switched from defense to offense and madly attacked Tianzi. This time it was different from before. Yi Xian directly suppressed Tianzi. In the distant void, Wuxia looked at Yi Xian and Ren Pingxing below and smiled. "Ren Pingxing, your disciple seems to be unable to hold on any longer." Ren Pingxing was expressionless. "Is that so?" Wuxia turned to look at Ren Pingxing. "Say, if your disciple loses this battle, will there be a demon in his heart?" Heaven's chosen one. This Tianzi was arrogant. In this Tendo Star sector he claimed to be the number one among the younger generation. Moreover, others also thought that he was the number one. After all, he was Heaven's chosen one, chosen by Tendo. He had great fortune. If he lost to Yi Xian here, it would definitely be a big blow to Tianzi. He couldn't lose. Below, Tianzi suddenly roared and swept his spear. In front of him Yi Xian raised his shield to block. Ping. Yi Xian was pushed back, but in the next moment he appeared in front of Tianzi again. Tianzi held the god-slaying spear and stabbed at Yi Xian. Yi Xian once again raised his shield to block. However, at the moment when the spear was about to touch the Sumeru shield, his shield suddenly moved away, allowing the spear to stab his chest. Almost at the same time, the Sumeru shield in Yi Xian's hand flew out and directly smashed on Tianzi's face. Boom. Yi Xian retreated several tens of feet. Tianzi was also instantly smashed by Yi Xian. His physical body wasn't as strong as Yi Xian. Therefore this smash directly smashed his face into a bloody mess. After Yi Xian stopped, he looked at his chest. His chest was completely fine. Torch dragon armor. Yi Xian raised his head and looked at Tianzi. Tianzi's expression was a little ugly. "How many defensive artifacts do you have?" Yi Xian smiled. "Not many, just a few dozen." Tianzi was about to speak, but Yi Xian suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared he was already in front of Tianzi. He raised his shield with both hands and smashed it at Tianzi again. Tianzi narrowed his eyes and blocked with his spear. Rumble. Tianzi was instantly smashed hundreds of feet away. Yi Xian was about to attack again, but at this time, Tianzi suddenly threw away the god-slaying spear in his hand. He pointed one finger at his chest and the other at his forehead. Boom. A powerful aura suddenly swept out from Tianzi's body. This powerful aura directly pushed Yi Xian, who was hundreds of feet away. Yi Xian was a little shocked because the Sumeru shield in his hand already had cracks. Yi Xian raised his head and looked at Tianzi. At this moment Tianzi's aura was completely different from before. Moreover, he couldn't feel Tianzi's aura. It was as if Tianzi didn't exist. At this time the voice from the 9th floor suddenly sounded in Yi Xian's mind. "This is heaven and earth transformation." Heaven and earth transformation. Yi Xian looked at Tianzi. Tianzi slowly closed his eyes and raised his right hand. In an instant the entire world became illusory. At this moment he had transformed into heaven and earth. Every word and action of his could affect heaven and earth. At this time Tianzi opened his eyes. His eyes were completely white. Tianzi looked at Yi Xian. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. With a wave of his right hand a powerful force swept out. Rumble. In the distance Yi Xian was instantly blasted hundreds of feet away. The moment he stopped, the space around him directly cracked. A powerful force continuously bombarded his Sumeru shield and body. Yi Xian knitted his eyebrows tightly. He found his body was being corroded by a mysterious force at the moment. This mysterious force directly bypassed the Sumeru shield and torch dragon armor. Tianzi suddenly laughed. Yi Xian, other than external objects you are nothing. Yi Xian looked at Tianzi. He didn't speak. He opened his palm and a sword suddenly appeared in his hand. In the next moment, a powerful sword intent gushed out from the executing heaven sword in his hand. Boom. The mysterious force released by Tianzi directly vanished into thin air. Seeing this scene, Tianzi's face suddenly turned ugly. At this moment he suddenly remembered that Yi Xian wasn't a physique cultivator, but a swordsman. Yi Xian looked at Tianzi. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Come, take my sword. As his voice fell, he directly disappeared on the spot. In the distance, Tianzi squinted his eyes and blasted out a punch. It was the same Tendo fist, but the power of this punch was completely different from the previous one. The power of this punch was at least several times stronger than the previous Tendo fist. At this time Yi Xian's sword arrived. Boom. The power of Tianzi's punch was directly shattered by Yi Xian's sword. At the same time, Yi Xian's sword arrived in front of Tianzi like a bolt of lightning. Tianzi's pupils suddenly shrank. He opened his palm and the god-slaying spear suddenly appeared. In the next moment he blocked with the spear. Boom. The spear violently trembled and Tianzi instantly flew out. At the moment he flew out, he suddenly roared and threw the god-slaying spear in his hand. The spear pierced through the air. In the distance Yi Xian raised his hand and slashed with his sword. Boom. That god-slaying spear was directly stopped by Yi Xian's sword. Not only that, the god-slaying spear had already cracked. The corners of Yi Xian's mouth curled up slightly, and his right hand gently exerted force. Boom. That god-slaying spear instantly exploded, turning into countless fragments that fell. Seeing this scene, Tianzi's face suddenly turned ugly. He was about to speak, but at this time, Yi Xian once again disappeared on the spot. Buzz. A sword cry shook the heaven and earth. Mortal sword. When Yi Xian's sword appeared, Tianzi's face suddenly changed again. He suddenly put his hands together and then made a seal, Tendo seal. Boom. A huge handprint suddenly appeared behind him, and the next moment, this handprint directly blasted towards Yi Xian. Yi Xian's sword arrived. Boom. The huge heavenly Dao seal directly exploded, and the sword pierced straight through, slashing towards Tianzi. Tianzi suddenly roared and blasted out a punch. Tendo fist. As soon as this punch was blasted out, the speed of Yi Xian's sword suddenly increased. Before Tianzi could react, that sword directly flashed past his right arm, and Tianzi's right arm directly flew off. At the same time, Yi Xian's sword suddenly pointed in between Tianzi's eyebrows. However, the sword was blocked by a mysterious force. Yi Xian turned his head to look at Ren Pingsheng. At this time, Wuxia suddenly said in a deep voice, "He didn't make a move." Ren Pingsheng didn't make a move? At this time, Tianzi in front of Yi Xian suddenly grinned. Yi Xian, this is Tendo's will. I have Tendo's will to protect me, you can't kill me. Tendo's will to protect me. P.S. Today, even if I'm shameless, I still ask for a vote. Asking for a vote. Asking for a vote. I ask for a vote. Want. Vote, vote, vote. Chapter 1038. Tendo's Will. Yi Xian held his sword and moved forward again. However, when the sword was half an inch away from Tianzi's forehead, it suddenly stopped. A mysterious force blocked his sword. At this moment, Tianzi suddenly threw out a punch. Yi Xian blocked it with his sword. Boom. Yi Xian was instantly knocked hundreds of feet away. After Yi Xian stopped, he frowned slightly. Senior, what is Tendo's will? Ninth floor said, it means that he has the protection of the Tendo, understand? Tendo's protection. Yi Xian was silent. He had to admit that he underestimated the chosen one. He has the protection of the Tendo. Yi Xian looked at Tianzi. Tianzi's body was surrounded by a mysterious force. Obviously this was the Tendo's will. This guy knew the Tendo. Tianzi slowly closed his eyes. His right hand that was cut off by Yi Xian was recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. In less than a few breaths, his right hand had returned to normal. Not only that, his aura became even stronger. Tianzi looked at Yi Xian. His face once again regained his previous calmness and confidence. Yi Xian, I am blessed by the heavens. With the protection of the Tendo, if you are my enemy, it means you are the enemy of the Tendo and the world. Do you understand? Yi Xian laughed. Being your enemy is the enemy of the world? Aren't you thinking too much? As his voice fell, the demon wings suddenly appeared behind him. The next moment, a ray of sword light flashed across the battlefield. In the distance, Tianzi squinted his eyes. Between his eyebrows, a Dao quietly condensed. Then this Dao directly flew out and blasted on Yi Xian's sword. Boom! The heaven and earth trembled. Tianzi was instantly blown away. As for Yi Xian, he relied on his powerful physical strength to resist the aftershock. Before Tianzi could stop, Yi Xian appeared in front of him again. At the same time, a sword directly slashed at Tianzi's throat. However, when the sword was half an inch away from Tianzi's throat, it couldn't cut through. In front of Yi Xian, Tianzi laughed. Your sword is so funny. As his voice fell, he waved his right hand. Boom! Yi Xian was instantly blown away. After Yi Xian stopped, he looked at the emperor. He had to admit that the will of the heavenly way was quite something. The ninth floor suddenly said, You can't kill him. Yi Xian said, Senior, is the Tendo protecting him? The ninth floor said, Yes. Yi Xian said, So, if I want to kill him, I will be going against the natural law? The ninth replied, You can understand it that way. Yi Xian was silent. The ninth floor said, Are you afraid? Yi Xian said, What's there to be afraid of? As he finished, he looked at Tianzi. At this time, the word Dao appeared on Tianzi's forehead again. This time it gradually turned red. At the same time, a black cloud appeared above his head. Within the black cloud, lightning flashed and a world-destroying might swept down. In the distance, Wuxia frowned when he saw this. Tendo. There was no one who wasn't afraid of this legendary supreme heavenly Dao. At this moment, Tianzi received the Tendo's blessing. Not only could he summon the Tendo's will to protect him, but he could also summon lightning. Obviously, the Tendo gave him many abilities. Yi Xian raised his head and looked at the black lightning. At this moment, the Son of Heaven suddenly smiled and said, Yi Xian, have a taste of the lightning punishment. As his voice fell from the black cloud above Yi Xian's head, a divine lightning suddenly fell from the sky. Boom! Lightning streaked across the sky, shaking heaven and earth. Yi Xian opened his left hand, and the Sumeru shield appeared in his hand. He held the shield with his left hand and blocked it. Boom! The lightning landed on the Sumeru shield, causing it to tremble violently. Yi Xian replaced the shield and fell from the sky. Boom! The ground under Yi Xian's feet instantly cracked. Yi Xian looked at the Sumeru shield in his hand. On the shield there were more cracks. Yi Xian smiled, then looked at Tianzi. Tendo's will? As he spoke, he opened his palm and the Tendo pen appeared in his hand. Seeing this Tendo pen, Tianzi's eyes narrowed. Tendo pen? This was a divine item used by Tendo. Tianzi laughed. Yi Xian, I'm heaven's chosen one. Are you out of your mind to use the Tendo pen to deal with me? Yi Xian did not respond to Tianzi. He directly activated the Tendo pen. The Tendo pen trembled violently, and a powerful force suddenly surged out from the tip of the Tendo pen. Tendo pen tip. Seeing the tip of the heavenly Dao brush, Tianzi's eyes narrowed. He didn't dodge, allowing the tip of the heavenly Dao brush to reach him. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, the tip of the heavenly Dao brush directly chopped down on Tianzi's head. However, Tianzi was not injured. Not only that, the Tendo pen tip was directly absorbed by the Tendo. Tianzi's aura became even stronger. Haha. At this moment, Tianzi laughed. In the void, Ren Pingxing was expressionless. Although Wuxia's face was calm, there was a murderous intent in the depths of his eyes. Yi Xian. Tianzi looked at Yi Xian and laughed. Did you see that? This Tendo pen won't hurt me at all. As he said that, he suddenly clenched his fist at Zhou Xian. Withdraw. As soon as he said that, the Tendo pen trembled violently and actually wanted to break free from Zhou Xian's hand. Zhou Xian looked at the Tendo pen in his hand and shook his head with a smile. Executing Heaven's sword suddenly appeared in his right hand. The next moment he held the Executing Heaven's sword in his right hand and slashed at the Tendo pen. If it's not for my use, what's the use of it? Boom. Zhou Xian's sword slashed at the Tendo pen. The Tendo pen trembled violently and directly turned into a black light that soared into the sky. In the distance, Tianzi suddenly laughed. Come. As soon as he said that, the Tendo pen directly turned into a black light and fell into his hand. Looking at the Tendo pen in his hand, Tianzi laughed again. At this time, the voice of the ninth floor suddenly sounded in Zhou Xian's mind. Now do you know what Heaven's Chosen One is? Heaven's Chosen One, blessed by Tendo, blessed with great fortune and heaven-defying luck. Zhou Xian laughed. Understood. The ninth floor said, you can't kill him, retreat. However, Zhou Xian shook his head and slowly walked towards Tianzi. He held the Executing Heaven sword in his right hand and looked calm. Tianzi looked at Zhou Xian and laughed. Zhou Xian, how can you fight against me? Zhou Xian slowly closed his eyes. Tendo. The corner of Zhou Xian's mouth gradually rose. It wasn't a smile but a sinister one. He suddenly opened his eyes. What Tendo? Tendo. If heaven wants to destroy me, then I will defy it. As soon as his voice fell, the demon wings behind him suddenly trembled violently. The next moment, a sword light flashed across the battlefield. Tianzi's mouth revealed a sneer. He held the Tendo pen in his hand and fiercely pushed forward. Boom. A powerful force suddenly swept out from the Tendo pen and directly hit the sword light. Boom. The sword light violently trembled and then exploded. At this time, Tianzi's pupils suddenly shrank because a sword was already at his throat. Tianzi suddenly roared, protect. Boom. Zhou Xian's sword was blocked by a mysterious force. Not only that, Zhou Xian himself was directly pushed back a few hundred feet. After Zhou Xian stopped, he looked at Tianzi in the distance and frowned slightly. His sword couldn't break the Tendo will. From afar, Tianzi laughed. Come, continue. Zhou Xian was silent. He knew that his sword couldn't break the Tendo will. It was the same even if he used other things. Was the Tendo will really invincible? Zhou Xian looked at Tianzi. Tianzi laughed. Why? Are you impotent? Zhou Xian suddenly laughed. The next moment, the blood in his body trembled. Bloodline power. He wanted to use this bloodline power to fight against the Tendo will. Of course, he just wanted to try and see if it was possible. Boom. A powerful force swept out from Zhou Xian's body, and the Executing Heaven sword in his hand directly turned into a blood sword. From afar, Tianzi suddenly laughed. Bloodline power? Not to mention your bloodline power, even the legendary True Dragon bloodline can't do anything to me. Zhou Xian raised his head and looked at Tianzi. Although his eyes were a sea of blood, there was a trace of clarity. This time he didn't fully activate his bloodline power. He wanted to see if his bloodline power could break the Tendo will. Zhou Xian suddenly disappeared on the spot. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Tianzi. Tianzi didn't block Zhou Xian's sword and let the Executing Heaven sword pierce his throat. Soon, the mysterious force appeared again. The Tendo will. The Executing Heaven sword pierced the mysterious will of the heaven's path. At this moment, the heavenly sun's expression changed drastically. This was because he realized that the will of the heaven's path had exploded. Boom. Zhou Xian's sword directly pierced Tianzi's throat. In an instant, Tianzi's physical body directly collapsed. At this moment, a mysterious force suddenly took away Tianzi's soul. Zhou Xian turned and looked at Ren Pingxing. The one who attacked just now was Ren Pingxing. Ren Pingxing looked at Zhou Xian. What bloodline is this? Zhou Xian laughed. Didn't you say one-on-one life and death are your own responsibility? Hearing this, Tianzi's face suddenly turned a little ugly. Zhou Xian looked at Tianzi and laughed. This is what you meant by one-on-one? Tenful. Tianzi snarled. Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian shook his head and turned to look at Wuxia. Wuxia was also looking at him. At this moment, Wuxia was also extremely shocked. He did not expect that Zhou Xian's bloodline power could actually break the Tendo will. What bloodline was this? Legend has it that there were two extremely powerful bloodlines. The first was the mortal bloodline and the true dragon bloodline. Obviously Yi Xian's bloodline did not belong to these two. Yi Xian laughed. Senior Wuxia, let's go. He knew that since Ren Pingxing made a move, he definitely could not kill Tianzi anymore. Wuxia nodded slightly. Let's go. After that he turned and left with Yi Xian. Wait. At this moment Ren Pingxing suddenly said, wait. Yi Xian turned to look at Ren Pingxing. Ren Pingxing stared at Yi Xian. What bloodline do you have? Yi Xian laughed. Take a guess. Ren Pingxing shook his head. Yi Xian, do you really think the Heavenly Fiend clan can protect you? Yi Xian looked at Ren Pingxing. Don't talk nonsense to me. If you can, come and kill me now. Ren Pingxing looked at Yi Xian, not saying a word. At this moment Tianzi suddenly said, Yi Xian, I'll give you a chance to kill me. My body has been destroyed. I'll fight you with my soul. Neither of us will use external objects. Let's have a fair fight. What do you think? Yi Xian immediately shook his head. No, you must have a conspiracy. After that he turned and left. At this moment Tianzi said again, Are you afraid? Yi Xian stopped. He shook his head with a smile and turned to Tianzi. Who have I been afraid of? Tianzi laughed. If you're not afraid, then why don't you dare to have a fair fight with me? Yi Xian looked at Tianzi and laughed. If you want to fight me with your soul, there must be a conspiracy. Do you think I'll fall for it? I'm not stupid. Why should I fight you with my soul? Tianzi stared at Yi Xian. If you don't agree, from now on I, the Protector, will send a super expert to the Worldwide Academy. I will make them destroy the Worldwide Academy and Fu Wenzong at all costs. Yi Xian looked at Tianzi and said ferociously, You're so despicable. Tianzi laughed. Since you and I are opponents, we should fight to the death. You saying that I'm despicable is a bit stupid. Yi Xian clenched his fists. The veins on his face were exposed as if he was furious to the extreme. Tianzi looked at Yi Xian. Are you going to agree or not? Yi Xian stared at Tianzi. You're using such a despicable method. Even if you win, it's an unfair victory. Tianzi shook his head. I only want the result. As for the process, it's not important at all. Yi Xian took a deep breath and said, I can fight you with my soul, but you have to promise me that if I lose, you can't find trouble with the Worldwide Academy and Fu Wenzong anymore. Tianzi laughed. I promise. Yi Xian roared. You swear. I swear in the name of the Tendo. Tianzi squinted his eyes. I swear in the name of the Tendo. If I violate the oath, I will die a horrible death. Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes and said unwillingly, Okay, I'll fight you with my soul. Chapter 1039. Soul. As soon as Yi Xian finished his sentence, his soul left his body and floated in the air. Yi Xian held the executing heaven sword in his hand. This time he was different from before. His expression was extremely solemn. Obviously, in the eyes of the crowd, this was not his forte. At this moment Wuxia suddenly said, Kid, you can choose not to agree to it. If I want to take you away, even the Pathmaster can't stop me. From afar the Emperor smiled. You're right, Senior. However, can you protect Fu Wenzong and the Worldwide Academy? Wuxia was silent. He could protect Yi Xian alone, but he could not protect the Worldwide Academy and Fu Wenzong. If a powerhouse like Ren Pingxing were to target these two forces, there was nothing he could do. After all, he could not protect these two forces at all times. The Emperor looked at Yi Xian and smiled. Yi Xian, don't be so angry. This is a fair fight. Don't worry, I won't use anything. Yi Xian was about to speak when Wuxia suddenly said, Yi Xian, think carefully. Yi Xian looked at Wuxia and shook his head. As the Heaven's chosen one, he is so despicable. I have no other choice. Wuxia hesitated for a moment, then said, If you can survive, you will definitely surpass him in the future. Needless to say, this evaluation was very high. After all, the Emperor was the Heaven's chosen one. Yi Xian smiled. Senior, can you give up on your people? Hearing this, Wuxia understood what Yi Xian meant. Yi Xian turned to look at the Emperor. Bring it on. As he spoke, he held the executing heaven sword in his right hand, and a strong sword intent vibrated from his body. However, compared to before, this sword intent was much weaker. In the distance, the Emperor's lips curled up slightly. Just as he was about to make a move, Ren Pingxing suddenly said, Be careful. Tianzi smiled and said, Master, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. After saying that, his soul floated towards Yi Xian. Looking at Yi Xian, he smiled and said, Yi Xian, I want to see without those 2 pieces of defensive equipment, will you? At this moment Yi Xian suddenly roared, despicable and shameless bastard, hand over your life. After that he charged towards Tianzi with the executing heaven sword in his hand. At this moment, Tianzi's soul suddenly turned illusory. Boom. Before anyone could react, Yi Xian was sent flying by a mysterious force. This flight covered a distance of several thousand feet. Not only that, but Yi Xian's soul was also somewhat illusory. Yi Xian gazed at the emperor. Meanwhile, Wuxia spoke abruptly, that's the Grand Soul technique. It was created by the first Dao Lord Lin Lang. His soul is fused with the world and it's extremely powerful. Your soul and sword can't harm him at all. Yi Xian's face was a little gloomy. The Son of Heaven looked at Yi Xian and said with a smile, a true expert should be strong in both body and soul. Yi Xian, you. Right at this moment Yi Xian suddenly transformed into a ray of sword light and vanished on the spot. This sword was extremely fast. However, that Tianzi's eyes flashed with a trace of disdain. If Yi Xian didn't use his soul to fight with him, he would still be a little afraid. However, in terms of pure soul, Yi Xian was too weak. Tianzi waved his right hand and a powerful soul force swept out. Before Yi Xian could get close to him, he was directly sent flying. After Yi Xian stopped, his expression became even more solemn. Tianzi looked at Yi Xian with a calm smile on his face. When he was about to speak, Yi Xian suddenly roared, this daddy will fight it out with you. With that he rushed out again. This strike was slightly faster than the previous one. However, in the eyes of the Son of Heaven, this sword was still so weak. Just when the Son of Heaven was about to attack, the sword in Yi Xian's hand suddenly turned into the soul-calming sword. The moment it turned into the soul-calming sword, Ren Pingxing, who was not far away, had a huge change in expression. He directly attacked, and the moment he attacked, Wuxia suddenly attacked. Boom! A loud explosion suddenly rang out. In the distance, when the Son of Heaven saw the soul-calming sword in Yi Xian's hand, his expression instantly changed. At this moment he wanted to retreat, but he attacked just now. Therefore he wanted to stop, but he quickly understood that if he stopped now he would undoubtedly die. Only by blocking this sword from Yi Xian could he survive. The Son of Heaven did not stop. He suddenly roared and waved his palm. The space between heaven and earth was directly shaken by his soul force. At this moment Yi Xian's sword arrived. A tearing sound suddenly resounded in the field. Soon the field quieted down. In the distance Ren Pingxing and Wuxia also stopped. Ren Pingxing looked to the right. There, a sword was inserted in between the Son of Heaven's eyebrows. Soul-calming sword. At this moment the Son of Heaven's soul was suppressed by a mysterious force. Not only that, his soul was slowly dissipating. Seeing this scene, Ren Pingxing slowly closed his eyes. He knew it was too late. In front of Yi Xian, the Son of Heaven stared at Yi Xian. Actually, you really want me to use my soul to fight with you, right? Yi Xian smiled. You guessed it. The Son of Heaven was about to speak, but Yi Xian suddenly said, can you die a little faster? With that he held the sword and slashed. The Son of Heaven's soul was directly absorbed. After absorbing the Son of Heaven's soul, the soul-calming sword shook violently, and a powerful soul force vibrated out from the sword. At this moment, a dark cloud suddenly appeared in the sky, and a powerful force suddenly enveloped Yi Xian. Yi Xian frowned slightly and looked at Ren Pingxing. At this moment Wuxia suddenly said, it's not him. Just as Yi Xian was about to speak, Ren Pingxing said again, it's the Tendo. Yi Xian said, I killed the one chosen by heaven, so I offended the Tendo? Wuxia nodded, yes. Yi Xian looked at the sky and smiled, is the Tendo going to kill me? Wuxia looked at the dark cloud in the sky with a gloomy expression. No one knew what he was thinking. Rumor had it that the ancient Tendo had fallen into a deep sleep in the long river of history. If the Tendo really appeared again, Wuxia looked at the dark cloud with a trace of confusion in his eyes. Would the Tendo really appear? Ren Pingxing also looked at the dark cloud. He also wanted to know if the Tendo would appear. Yi Xian looked at the dark cloud calmly. Was the Tendo really going to kill him? Right at this moment, the black cloud suddenly vanished as if it had never appeared. All the spectators in the surroundings were stunned when they witnessed this scene. What was going on? Yi Xian was stunned as well. It disappeared just like that. At this moment Ren Pingxing suddenly disappeared on the spot. Almost at the same time Wuxia also disappeared. Rumble. The space in front of Zhou Xian suddenly exploded, and a powerful force shook Zhou Xian and forced him to retreat. Before he could stop, a powerful force suddenly appeared in front of him. Zhou Xian narrowed his eyes and was about to attack when Wuxia stood in front of him. Wuxia waved his right hand. Rumble. The space in front of Zhou Xian turned into nothingness. Meanwhile, Ren Pingxing appeared in front of Wuxia. Ren Pingxing looked at Wuxia. Ren Pingxing looked at Wuxia. Are you really going to protect him? Wuxia smiled. Ren Pingxing, you and your disciple really can't afford to lose. It's embarrassing. Ren Pingxing glanced coldly at Wuxia and then looked at Zhou Xian. I'd like to see if he can protect you. With that, he turned around and disappeared into the horizon. After Ren Pingxing disappeared, Wuxia looked at Zhou Xian. Let's go. Zhou Xian nodded. Just like that, Zhou Xian left with Wuxia. Zhou Xian followed Wuxia to Heavenly Demon City of the Heavenly Demon Tribe, which was the base camp of the Heavenly Demon Tribe. After arriving at Heavenly Demon City, Zhou Xian realized that the spiritual energy in the Heavenly Demon realm was extremely poor. It was on a completely different level compared to the spiritual energy in Tendo City. In the sky above Heavenly Demon City, Wuxia looked at Zhou Xian. What's your purpose in coming to the Tendo Galaxy? Zhou Xian said, to cause trouble for my Dao protector. Wuxia shook his head. Zhou Xian smiled. You don't believe me, senior? Wuxia said, no, I think you're too bold. Zhou Xian said softly, Senior, can you fight against Tendo City? Wuxia suddenly said, if we can destroy Tendo City, which side will you stand on? Zhou Xian looked at Wuxia. Why do you ask, Senior? Wuxia smiled. You're a human, we're heavenly demons. Zhou Xian shook his head. Senior, do you only want to destroy Tendo City, or do you want to dominate the fifth dimension? Wuxia smiled. I can't. With that, he looked up at the horizon and said softly, the world today is too chaotic. Although the Heavenly Demon Tribe isn't weak, it's far from enough to dominate the fifth dimension, especially with so many eras experts gathered here. Zhou Xian looked down at Heavenly Demon City. Senior, do you know about the fifth dimension? Wuxia nodded. Of course. If I'm not wrong, the fifth dimension will arrive in 9 years. Zhou Xian looked at Wuxia. How did the Heavenly Demon Tribe survive the fifth dimension tribulation? Wuxia said softly, they sacrificed countless ancestors in exchange. Hearing this, Zhou Xian was silent. It was clear that these forces that were able to survive the fifth dimension tribulation had paid a very painful price. At this time, Wuxia suddenly said, what do you plan to do next? Zhou Xian looked at Wuxia. I want to stay with the Heavenly Demon Tribe for a while, Senior, you don't mind, right? Wuxia smiled. I don't mind. However, don't leave this city. If you do, once Ren Pingxing targets you, I won't be able to protect you. Also, there's a forbidden area in the south, don't go there. Zhou Xian nodded. Understood. Wuxia nodded, then turned around and disappeared. Zhou Xian also left. In the sky, Wuxia looked down at Zhou Xian silently. At this time, Lin Mo appeared beside him and Lin Mo said in a low voice, Master, we don't know if this person is friend or foe. If we take him in, I'm afraid, Wuxia suddenly said, is he the Dao Protector's enemy? Lin Mo nodded, yes. Wuxia looked at Lin Mo. Since he is, then he is not our enemy. In the future you have to take a longer view. This Zhou Xian is not simple. Not only does he have many treasures, but he also has a mysterious bloodline. He is not an ordinary person. Moreover, he just killed a person chosen by heaven but nothing happened to him. As he said this, he looked up at the sky and said softly, rumor has it that killing a person chosen by heaven will cause one to suffer the wrath of heaven. However, he didn't suffer the wrath of heaven. This is not normal. P.S. A pig in my hometown more than 6,000. I feel that raising pigs is very promising. Chapter 1040. Divine Retribution. To a certain extent, the Chosen One represented Tendo. Killing a Chosen One would result in divine retribution. However, Zhou Xian did not suffer divine retribution. In fact, the moment the Son of Heaven died, the black cloud that appeared might have been divine retribution. However, for some reason the black cloud disappeared. There were two possibilities. First, the Tendo gave up on punishing Zhou Xian. Second, the Tendo gave up on punishing Zhou Xian because of fear. No matter which one it was, it meant that Zhou Xian was not simple. At this moment, Lin Mo suddenly said, I'm afraid that Ren Pingxing will not let this matter rest. Wuxia smiled. Of course he won't let this matter rest. A heaven's chosen one being killed, This was not a small loss. However, this Zhou Xian is not a simple person. In short, it's a good thing for us. At this point, he seemed to have thought of something and turned to look at Lin Emo. What do you think of Zhou Xian? After a moment of silence, Lin Emo said, I can't see through him right now. Wuxia nodded slightly. I can't see through him either. As he spoke, he looked down. Tell the people in the clan not to provoke him. With that, he disappeared on the spot. In the courtyard, Zhou Xian sat cross-legged on the ground. After the battle with the Son of Heaven, he realized that he still had many shortcomings. It could be said that if the power of the bloodline had not suppressed the will of the Tendo, he would not have been able to do anything to the Son of Heaven. Of course, the Son of Heaven would not have been able to do anything to him. After all, not only did he have the Sumeru shield and the torch dragon armor, he also had the heaven and earth cover and the immortal body that Xiao Dao had given him. Especially the immortal body. To a certain extent, the immortal body was similar to the will of the Tendo of the Son of Heaven. They both achieved an invincible effect for a short period of time. It could be said that without the power of the bloodline, the Son of Heaven would not be able to do anything to him, and he would not be able to do anything to the Son of Heaven. At this moment, the ninth floor suddenly said, Do you know why I asked you to save him? Zhou Xian collected his thoughts and said with a smile, Senior, you must have a deeper meaning. The ninth house said, I just want to see how he will choose. Zhou Xian asked, What do you mean? He could have chosen to befriend you, but he didn't. Zhou Xian said in a deep voice, Senior wants him to befriend me. Sir. Just as Zhou Xian was about to say something, the ninth floor spoke up. Don't ask why. All I can tell you is that this is a choice given to the two of you by that being. Whether or not you make a move will have a huge impact on your future. In short, you will naturally understand today's choice in the future. Zhou Xian shook his head and smiled. Senior, you're acting all mysterious now. The ninth replied, Hurry up and reach the rebirth state. Rebirth state? Zhou Xian asked in a deep voice. Senior, there is a realm above the rebirth state, right? Sir. Zhou Xian said, Please enlighten me. The ninth floor fell silent for a moment before he said, According to what I know, there are two more realms above the rebirth state, and they are the Sovereign Realm and the legendary Self-Release Realm. Zhou Xian frowned slightly. Sovereign Realm? Self-Release Realm? The ninth floor said, The Sovereign Realm is the realm where one controls oneself and severs the karma of one's past life. Moreover, one can hide from the secrets of the heavens and not be tainted by karma. Moreover, a Sovereign Realm expert has a lifespan of over 100,000 years. Even though it isn't eternal, it's still extremely terrifying. 100,000 years. For example, Arrow, the Lord of the Fiends, God Emperor, and the boundless underground river. The one-legged woman, the Tao Lord, and the heavenly devil race's patriarch are all sovereigns. Zhou Xian asked, What about the self-release realm? The ninth floor fell silent for a moment before he said, According to legend, there are 50 grand Daoists, 49 in heaven and 1 in man. It means that there are a total of 50 laws of development in the world, and Tendo can develop 49. So, 1 in man is the secrets of the heavens. This one is outside of the Grand Daos and it has transcended the Grand Daos. However, this realm only existed in legends. Because very few people are able to transcend the Grand Daos, and they are not within the boundaries of the Grand Daos. No, it's not very few, it's practically no one who has reached this level. Zhou Xian said solemnly, It transcends the Grand Daos and it is not within the boundaries of the Grand Daos. The ninth floor said, This realm only exists in legends. In any case, among all the experts I know, even Arrow hasn't reached this level. Zhou Xian suddenly asked, What about the woman in the plain dress? The ninth floor fell silent for a moment before he said, I don't know. Zhou Xian frowned slightly. You don't know? The ninth floor said, Because she kills with a single strike of her sword. There's no way to see through her strength and realm. Zhou Xian was speechless. The ninth floor said, You're in the karma realm now and it's difficult for you to reach the rebirth realm. But I can tell you that reaching the sovereign realm from the rebirth realm is the real challenge. It's so difficult that it's hopeless. Zhou Xian asked, It's that difficult? The ninth floor sighed, It's beyond your imagination. Think about it, from the ancient times until now, how many sovereigns have there been? Not even 10. The next time you see Arrow you can ask her. She'll tell you if it's difficult or not. Zhou Xian smiled, I don't want to think about that now. I just want to reach the rebirth realm. The ninth floor said, then you'll have to find more swords and you'll have to understand them. Xian nodded, and as if he had thought of something he suddenly asked, Senior, what realm are you in? The ninth floor laughed but didn't say a word. Xian shook his head and didn't ask any more. To him the most pressing matter at hand was to reach the rebirth realm. In order to reach the rebirth realm he had to find swords to devour. And swords were an extremely troublesome matter. Ordinary swords weren't of much use to him anymore. He had to find a sword of the highest quality. Where could he find one? Xian shook his head. Right at this time someone knocked on the door and Xian retracted his thoughts. Come in. The door opened and a man walked in. It was Lin Emo. Lin Emo looked at Xian and a smile appeared on his face. Brother Yi, Master asked me to ask you if there's anything you need? Xian blinked and he said, do you have swords? Those are very good swords. Lin Emo hesitated for a moment and then said, if it's really good I'm afraid I don't have any. If it's an ordinary one I can get a few for Brother Yi. Xian nodded. It looks like I can only look for Miss Xiao Dao. Ordinary swords were useless to him and if he wanted a good sword he could only look for Xiao Dao. Xian looked at Lin Emo. Brother Lin, is there something you need from me? Lin Emo nodded. We're going to attack the Tendo Starfield. Brother Yi, Master wants to restrain Ren Pingxing, and we don't know how many experts we have amongst the Dao protectors. So, please be careful when the time comes, Xian. Xian said, you're going to attack the Tendo Starfield now? Lin Emo nodded. We'll definitely win this battle. Xian said, you want me to attack? Lin Emo smiled. Master didn't say that. So, it all depends on Xian himself whether he wants to fight or not. Xian smiled. I understand. Lin Emo nodded slightly. Brother Yi, if you need anything else just let me know. I still have many things to do so I'll be taking my leave first. With that he turned and left. Xian walked out of the room and looked at the sky. At this moment, countless sky demon experts were rising from the city, on a scale he had never seen before. The sky demon tribe. Xian asked softly, Senior, can the sky demon tribe defeat the Dao protectors? The ninth house said, under normal circumstances they should be evenly matched, but since they dare to attack, it means they must have other trump cards. So, there's going to be a good show. Xian smiled. I want to see how the Dao protectors will resist. The ninth house asked, are you going to attack? Xian nodded. Of course I'm going to attack. This is a very good opportunity for me. The ninth house said, isn't it better to let both sides suffer? Xian smiled. If I thought that way, do you think Senior Wuxia would still protect me? Besides, if I don't attack now, am I going to attack when the Sky Demon tribe is defeated? The ninth house was silent for a moment, then said, no matter what, be careful. Both the Sky Demon tribe and the Dao protectors are not to be trifled with. Xian nodded. He turned into a beam of sword light and soared into the sky. Before long, Xian followed the Sky Demon clan's experts to the extraterritorial battlefield. At this moment, countless human experts were gathered on the other side of the boundary river. Almost all the experts of the Tendo Galaxy were here. Among these people Xian saw two familiar faces. Tianyan and Tianhan. Seeing Xian's gaze, Tianyan also looked at him. The Dao protectors had labeled Xian as a traitor to humanity. Seeing Tianhan's gaze, Xian smiled. He naturally had no ill intentions towards the Tianyan sisters. Tianhan turned to Tianyan. Be careful later. Tianyan nodded. In the sky, Xian glanced at the experts of Tendo City. Needless to say, the experts of Tendo City were really strong and there were a lot of them. A real battle of life and death. This battle was related to the fate of the two races. Meanwhile, Ren Pingxing suddenly appeared in the distant sky, and the first person he saw was Xian. When he saw Ren Pingxing look over, Xian smiled and waved as a greeting. Ren Pingxing looked at Xian and Xian smiled. Senior, I like it when you don't like me but can't kill me. As soon as these words were spoken, countless experts looked at Xian. Everyone in the Tendo Galaxy naturally knew about Xian because the Son of Heaven had died at his hands. The news of Xian killing the Son of Heaven had long spread throughout the entire Tendo Galaxy. Ren Pingxing withdrew his gaze and looked at Wuxia. You should know that this era is no longer ours. If we continue to fight, both sides will suffer. Wuxia smiled. You should know the situation in the Heavenly Demon Galaxy. Do you think I have a choice? Ren Pingxing said, there is another choice. We can let the Heavenly Demon Clan enter the Tendo Galaxy, and the two races can coexist. However, there's one condition. I want Yi Xian's head and I want you to bring it to me personally. Hearing this, Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. At this moment, the voice from the 9th floor suddenly rang in Yi Xian's mind. Run. Chapter 1041. Run. Yi Xian's first thought was to run when he heard Jujio's words. But he knew that if he did he would surely die. Because if he ran now, not only would Ren Pingxing attack him but Wuxia might as well. Yi Xian calmed himself and looked at Wuxia. Wuxia was silent. It must be said that Ren Pingxing's suggestion was very tempting. The sky demons wanted to survive and previously they had to fight to the death with Tendo City. But now they could get what they wanted without having to fight to the death. And that condition was to kill Yi Xian. Wuxia looked at Yi Xian and Yi Xian smiled. Senior, do you believe him? Wuxia turned to Ren Pingxing who said, Wuxia, you know me. If I say so I will do it. Of course it's up to you. As long as you take his head, the city of Tendo is willing to live with the sky demons. I mean what I say. Wuxia was silent. Yi Xian wore a smile on his face, but no one knew what he was thinking. Ren Pingxing suddenly said, Wuxia, look behind you. There are hundreds of thousands of sky demons behind you. I know you must have a mysterious trump card, but let me ask you, after this battle, how many of the hundreds of thousands of sky demons behind you will be left? Wuxia turned to look at the experts of the Heavenly Devil Clan and remained silent. In fact, he was prepared to sacrifice countless people this time. But that was when he had no other choice. Now he had another choice. Not only Wuxia but countless powerhouses from the Heavenly Demon Clan were also moved. Some powerhouses from the Heavenly Demon Clan had even locked onto Yi Xian with their divine consciousness. Obviously they were afraid that Yi Xian would escape. Yi Xian was silent. Jujio suddenly said, You can't get away. Yi Xian suddenly laughed. Everyone turned to look at Yi Xian. Yi Xian smiled and said, Elder Wuxia, do you really believe what he said? Wuxia was silent, hesitating. Ren Pingxing suddenly asked, Why not? Yi Xian looked at Ren Pingxing who said mildly, Yi Xian, I know what you're thinking. You want my Tendo City to fight the Sky Demon Clan to the death, and then you'll reap the benefits. With that he looked at Wuxia and asked, What do you think? Wuxia looked at Ren Pingxing. Yi Xian wants the Heavenly Fiend Clan to have a life and death struggle with your city of Tendo. Don't you have bad intentions as well? As he spoke he smiled and said, Yi Xian himself is not a simple character. My instincts tell me that if I kill him today my Sky Demon Clan will be in deep trouble in the future. Ren Pingxing asked softly, Have you made your choice? Wuxia said, Ren Pingxing, your suggestion is not bad. If you are willing to live in peace with the Heavenly Fiend Clan, you will even if I don't kill Yi Xian. If you are unwilling you will not even if I kill Yi Xian, am I right? Ren Pingxing was silent. Wuxia suddenly said, I have a suggestion. We can live in peace or even form an alliance and I will not interfere with what happens between you and Yi Xian. What do you think? Ren Pingxing was silent. It was time for him to make his choice. Wuxia added, I won't kill Yi Xian. He was not stupid. If he killed Yi Xian it would bring disaster to the Heavenly Fiend Clan. That was because he had investigated Yi Xian. The fellow was not simple. Not only was he related to Xiao Dao but he was also related to the undefeatable arrow. If he killed him there would be endless karma. Ren Pingxing suddenly said, Are you sure you're not going to interfere? Wuxia turned to look at Yi Xian. I'm sorry. Yi Xian smiled. I understand. With that he had already turned into a beam of sword light and disappeared into the horizon. At this moment Ren Pingxing suddenly punched out. Heaven and earth changed color when he punched. In the distance Yi Xian's pupils shrank. A shield suddenly appeared around him. Heaven and earth shield. At this moment Yi Xian really smelled the scent of death. He knew that with his current strength he was still unable to fight against a powerhouse in the sovereign realm. Therefore he decisively used the Heaven and Earth shroud that little Daoist had given him. As soon as the Heaven and Earth shield appeared, a powerful force hit him. Rumble. In an instant the Heaven and Earth shield disappeared without a trace. At the same time he used the Space Dao Law and the demon's wings to disappear. Ren Pingxing frowned deeply when he saw this. He did not expect Yi Xian to be able to withstand his punch. Most importantly, he did not expect Yi Xian to be so fast. Ren Pingxing was about to give chase when Wuxia suddenly said, Brother Ren, if you go after him, aren't you worried about your Tendo City? Ren Pingxing looked at Wuxia. I'm more worried about him. After saying that, he disappeared. Wuxia was silent. He hesitated for a while and decided not to attack again. Coexisting peacefully with the Heavenly Law City was already the best possible outcome. Because the Heavenly Fiend clan did not need to sacrifice people. Although helping Yi Xian would create good karma, the price might be too high. At that moment, Lin Mo appeared beside Wuxia. Lin Mo turned to look at the sky and said softly, "Can he escape from the Path Master?" Wuxia said softly, "It'll be difficult." Lin Mo was silent. Right at this moment, an explosion suddenly resounded from the distant horizon. Wuxia's eyes narrowed when he saw this. The explosion came from the Heavenly Fiend clan. Yi Xian had escaped to the Heavenly Fiend clan. Would this fellow do anything rash? Wuxia was a little worried. In the distant sky, Yi Xian raised his speed to the limit. This time he was running for his life. Because he knew that he couldn't defeat the Path Master at all. Risking his life now was not being tough but being stupid. It should be noted that the Path Master wasn't the only one present. There were also countless powerhouses from the Tendo Galaxy. Not to mention him, even Arrow couldn't take on the entire Tendo City alone. This time Yi Xian directly used the Space Dao Law and the Devil's Wings. Not only that, but he even used the Black Sword. And his target was the Heavenly Fiend clan's forbidden area. Previously, Wuxia had told him not to go to the forbidden area because it must be a mysterious place. Of course, he was desperate now because he didn't have any other choice. If he could return to the Boundless Dungeon, he would definitely do so because that place had Arrow and Xiao Dao. But it was too late to return to the Boundless Dungeon now. At that moment, a powerful force suddenly swept over from behind him. Yi Xian's expression changed. He turned and slashed down with his sword. One sword to decide life and death. He didn't dare to hold back this time. Boom. As the sword slashed down, a powerful force directly shattered Yi Xian's sword light. At the same time, the space within a radius of tens of thousands of feet turned into nothingness, and Yi Xian had already disappeared tens of thousands of feet away. Tens of thousands of feet away, Yi Xian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked at the Meru shield in his hand. At that moment, the Meru shield had completely cracked. Not only had the Meru shield cracked, but even the Torch Dragon armor he was wearing had completely cracked. Beneath the Meru shield, his body was also full of cracks. It could be said that if it weren't for the Torch Dragon armor and the Meru shield, he would have been seriously injured even if he didn't die. This Path Master was really too powerful. In the distance, the Path Master frowned. He didn't expect Yi Xian to be able to withstand his second attack. That should be impossible. Too monstrous. The killing intent in Ren Pingxing's eyes grew stronger when he thought up to this point, and he suddenly sped up. In the distance, Yi Xian raised his speed to its limits as well, and it didn't take long for him to enter Sky Devil City. As soon as he entered Sky Devil City, he headed straight for the forbidden area that Wuxia had mentioned. Ren Pingxing followed closely behind him and he was getting closer and closer. Yi Xian's face was gloomy and no one knew what he was thinking. If there was nothing special about that forbidden area, then he would probably be dead for sure. Suddenly, the 9th Pavilion Master said, "You can't go against him." Yi Xian hurriedly said, "Senior, can you help me?" The 9th Pavilion Master said, "I can't go against him if I borrow your body." Yi Xian asked, "Can you come out?" The 9th Pavilion Master said, "If I force my way out, you'll suffer even more." Yi Xian frowned slightly. "Why do you say that?" The 9th Pavilion Master said, "You're the Pagoda Master. If I force my way out, then the pagoda will be heavily injured and you'll suffer as well. Understand?" Yi Xian sighed softly and he had no choice but to speed up. The Path Lord behind Yi Xian suddenly sped up. On the other hand, Wuxia's expression was slightly unsightly because he knew what Yi Xian's objective was. Yi Xian's objective was the forbidden area of the Heavenly Devil clan. This fellow wanted to use the forbidden area of the Heavenly Devil clan to save his life. A voice suddenly resounded in Yi Xian's mind from afar. "Yi Xian, I know you want to use the forbidden area of the Heavenly Devil clan to save your life, but let me tell you that place isn't somewhere you can go. If you go there you'll definitely die." It was Wuxia's voice. Yi Xian frowned tightly, and he was slightly hesitant because he knew that Wuxia wasn't trying to scare him. But at this moment he had no other choice. Yi Xian didn't think any further and sped up. Before long Yi Xian arrived in front of a door. Yi Xian frowned as he looked at the door. Was this the forbidden area that Wuxia had mentioned? At this moment Wuxia's voice resounded in Yi Xian's mind again. Yi Xian, don't make a mistake. Even the Heavenly Devil clan wouldn't dare to enter this place. If you go there you'll definitely die. Yi Xian clenched his fists and his expression was extremely dark. To go in or not to go in? Without giving it much thought, Yi Xian walked through the door. Because Ren Pingxing had caught up with him. In fact, the two of them had only used a few breaths' time to travel from the boundary river to this place. During this time Ren Pingxing had attacked Yi Xian twice, but both attacks had been blocked by Yi Xian. In front of the door Ren Pingxing frowned slightly. He was about to enter when Wuxia suddenly appeared in front of him. Wuxia hurriedly said, Ren Pingxing, don't go in. If he goes in he'll definitely die. Ren Pingxing suddenly looked at Wuxia. I won't be at ease if I don't see him die. With that he directly entered the door. Seeing this, Wuxia's expression suddenly turned ugly. He hesitated again and again, but in the end he still didn't dare to enter. After some time Yi Xian appeared in front of a stone tablet. Behind the stone tablet was a mountain range. Yi Xian looked at the stone tablet. There were 5 words on the stone tablet. Sword Sect, Floating Mountain. P.S. Green Phoenix, please buy tickets. Chapter 1042. Sword Master? Floating Mountain? Yi Xian frowned. He scanned his surroundings. There was a sword sect here? He was familiar with the sword sect. He had met many sword sect members on his way here from Qingcheng. There was a sword sect here as well. Yi Xian looked around. There was a mountain range all around him. He looked into the sky. At the end of his vision, there was a huge mountain hanging upside down in the sky. On top of that mountain was a huge palace. Sword sect? Yi Xian was about to go over when an old man suddenly appeared in front of Yi Xian. The old man had a head full of white hair. He stood ramrod straight and carried a black sword case on his back. Yi Xian's expression changed when he saw the old man. He felt that the old man was unfathomable. He could tell at a glance that the old man was no weaker than Ren Pingxing. The old man glanced at Yi Xian. Swordsman. Yi Xian was about to speak when a powerful aura suddenly came from behind Yi Xian. Yi Xian's expression changed and he quickly hid behind the old man. The old man looked into the distance, his eyes cold. How dare you? The sword case on his back suddenly shook violently. A sword shot up into the sky and slashed at Ren Pingxing. Yi Xian's expression froze when he saw the sword. So powerful. In the distance Ren Pingxing suddenly stopped. His expression also changed when he saw the sword. Not daring to be careless, he circulated his mental cultivation method and swung his palm. A powerful force shot out from his palm. Boom. The sword light was forced to a stop, but the next moment, it suddenly exploded. Rumble. Ren Pingxing was thrown back hundreds of feet. After Ren Pingxing stopped, he looked at the white-haired old man with a solemn expression. Who are you? The white-haired old man did not speak. He swung his sword again. Boom. In the distance Ren Pingxing retreated violently again. This time he retreated 10,000 feet. After he stopped, Ren Pingxing looked at his right hand. From his palm to his shoulder there was a deep sword wound. It was so deep that his bones could be seen. Ren Pingxing looked up at the white-haired elder. This time his eyes were solemn and fearful. Who are you? The white-haired elder was expressionless as he struck again. Buzz. A sword cry soared into the sky, shaking the clouds. In the distance Ren Pingxing's pupils shrank. He suddenly raised his hands. The great harmony of heaven and earth. Boom. At this moment heaven and earth seemed to condense in his palms, and a wave of heaven and earth's might swept out from his hands. Rumble. The sword light shattered, but Ren Pingxing retreated another 10,000 feet. As soon as Ren Pingxing stopped, the space behind him silently turned into nothingness. Ren Pingxing looked at the white-haired old man again. His eyes were filled with fear. Who are you? The white-haired old man remained expressionless. He opened his palms. The unity of heaven and man. As soon as he finished speaking, an illusory sword suddenly condensed in his palm. Ren Pingxing's expression changed drastically when he saw this. This time he turned around and left without any hesitation. The white-haired old man frowned when he saw that the white-haired old man had disappeared. He did not choose to chase after him. Instead he turned to look at Yi Xian. Yi Xian smiled sheepishly. Greetings, senior. The white-haired old man sized up Yi Xian for a moment. This place does not welcome outsiders. Yi Xian looked at him hesitantly. Can I stay for a few days? The white-haired old man frowned slightly. At this moment a voice came from afar. Let him in. Hearing this voice, the white-haired old man hurriedly bowed respectfully. Yes, miss. With that he turned to look at Yi Xian. Please come with me. Yi Xian looked at the sky. There's someone else? Yi Xian didn't think too much about it and followed the old man forward. In next to no time he followed the old man to arrive before the sword sect's audience hall, and Yi Xian saw a statue before the audience hall. The statue of a man in green. It's this man in green again. Who is this man in green? The white-haired old man did not bring Yi Xian into the main hall. Instead he brought him to the back of the mountain. The white-haired old man brought Yi Xian to the back mountain of the sword sect. There was a small house at the back mountain, and there was a broom placed beside the small house. In front of the small house was a vegetable garden, and within the vegetable garden was a woman in a green dress, and the woman was watering the vegetables. The white-haired old man bowed respectfully to the woman. Miss. The woman stopped in the distance and then she turned around to look at Yi Xian. At this moment Yi Xian saw her appearance as well. She had a delicate and pretty appearance and she had a faint smile on her face. The woman put down the bottle in her hand and then she walked slowly towards Yi Xian. Yi Xian hurriedly said, Senior. The woman sized up Yi Xian and then she smiled. I really am. Yi Xian was slightly puzzled. What? The woman grinned. Your sword Dao has attained mortal attainment? Yi Xian nodded. Senior you are? The woman looked at Yi Xian and smiled. You want to know who I am? Yi Xian hesitated for a moment before he said, Can I? The woman blinked. I won't tell you. Yi Xian was speechless. The woman suddenly gestured with her right hand and a sword appeared in her grasp. Yi Xian's expression instantly changed when he saw this sword. It was the sword of the green-clothed man at the top of the pagoda. The woman sized up the sword in her hand and smiled. Long time no see. The sword trembled slightly as if it was replying to her. The woman smiled and then she gazed at Yi Xian. Yi Xian suddenly said, Senior, do you recognize this sword? The woman smiled. I do and I'm very familiar with it. Yi Xian spoke in a low voice. Who exactly are you, Senior? The woman blinked. Guess. Yi Xian was speechless. How am I supposed to guess? Meanwhile, the woman suddenly said, Were you pursued all the way here? Yi Xian nodded. The woman smiled. Then you're in quite a miserable state. Yi Xian hesitated for a moment before he said, Senior, are you from the sword sect? The woman nodded. Yi Xian said, Senior definitely knows that green-clothed man, right? The woman blinked. I do. Moreover, I'm very familiar with him. Yi Xian spoke in a low voice. Senior, you know me? The woman smiled. Why do you say that? Yi Xian shook his head. My intuition tells me that you know me. The woman nodded. I really do know you. Yi Xian gazed at the woman. The woman smiled. Don't think too much about it. I have no ill intent towards you. Yi Xian hesitated for a moment before he asked, Senior, why do you know me? The woman smiled. If I know you then I know you. There's no need to ask so many questions. Yi Xian was about to speak when the woman suddenly said, Come, water the vegetables with me. As soon as she finished speaking she turned around and walked into the vegetable garden, and then she continued watering the vegetables. Yi Xian fell silent for a short moment before he followed her and started watering the vegetables as well. Meanwhile, the woman suddenly said, My father told me that the true essence of the sword Dao lies in ordinary matters. I haven't really understood it all these years and I still don't understand it even now. Do you understand? Yi Xian said, Is that why you grew vegetables? The corners of the woman's mouth curled up slightly. In the beginning I felt that it was boring as well. But later on I realized that growing vegetables is rather interesting. Yi Xian asked, Interesting in what way? The woman smiled. Ordinary. Yi Xian frowned slightly. Ordinary. The woman gazed at Yi Xian. Attack me. Yi Xian was slightly puzzled. Meanwhile, the woman suddenly waved her hand and a ray of light slashed towards him. Yi Xian's expression changed when he saw this ray of light, and he swiftly drew his sword and slashed. Bang! Along with the ray of light shattering, Yi Xian retreated explosively by 300 m. After Yi Xian stopped, The executing heaven sword in his hand trembled violently. Meanwhile, the woman suddenly pointed her sword at him. Xian was just about to attack when a strand of sword aura pressed down upon him like a myriad of mountains, and it made it difficult for him to breathe. Xian wanted to attack, but he felt that the sword weighed tens of thousands of kilograms, making it difficult for him to pull it out. Xian's expression sank. He had never encountered such a thing before. At this moment, the woman in the distance suddenly smiled. "Your sword is too mixed." Xian looked at the woman. "My sword has already entered the mortal realm." The woman blinked. And then, Xian fell silent. The woman smiled. "Ordinary swords don't mean anything. In the mortal realm there are strong and weak and good and bad. Your current ordinary sword is very poor. Do you know why your sword is mixed?" Xian shook his head. The woman smiled. "Heart." Xian looked at the woman. "Senior, please enlighten me." The woman walked in front of Xian. "We who cultivate the sword can actually be said to cultivate the heart. Your heart is very mixed and your sword is very mixed. Especially the current you, your thoughts are exquisite. Of course this is not a bad thing, but it is a bad thing when used on the sword. When you do something you must be serious and focused. Only then can you do it well. Do you understand?" Xian fell silent. The woman suddenly said angrily, "Do you understand?" Xian's eyelids twitched. Why was she so fierce? At this time the woman said again, "Do you not understand or are you not convinced? If you don't understand I can explain it to you again. If you are not convinced it's very simple. You and I will fight one-on-one. I will beat you until you are convinced." Xian hurriedly said, I understand." The woman nodded slightly. She lightly patted Xian's shoulder. "While I still have some time, you can grow vegetables with me." "Grow vegetables?" Xian's expression became somewhat strange. The woman suddenly said, "Are you not willing?" Xian said, "Senior, I have great enemies outside. Will I drag you down if I stay here?" The woman blinked. "You're trying to play tricks on me again." Xian hurriedly shook his head. "No, no." The woman spoke indifferently, "You have to deal with your own problems. Understand?" Xian glanced at her and said, "Senior, why are you helping me?" The woman smiled, "Because you're pleasing to the eye." Xian spoke in a low voice, "May I know your name, Senior?" The woman thought for a moment and said, "I'm older than you, right?" Xian nodded, "Yes." The woman said, "Since I'm older than you, then you can call me Big Sister." "Big Sister?" Xian was stunned when he heard this. The woman continued, "What? Are you unwilling?" Xian hesitated for a moment and said, "Senior, this." The woman's eyes narrowed slightly, "Are you going to call me that or not?" As soon as she finished speaking, a powerful strand of sword energy enveloped Xian. Xian was dumbstruck. Is she trying to force me to call her Big Sister? Chapter 1043. It had to be said that Xian was a little confused at the moment. He felt that something was not right. This woman's attitude towards him was a little too good and abnormally good. The woman suddenly said, "Do you feel bad that you have to acknowledge me as your sister?" Xian smiled bitterly. "That's not it. I'm just a little confused." "Senior, I think you," the woman suddenly said, "abnormal?" Xian quickly shook his head. "Senior, you're definitely normal. It's just that I think you're going to acknowledge me as your brother as soon as we meet." "This?" The woman looked at Xian and said with a smile, "It's fine if you don't want to acknowledge me." Xian quickly said, "I do. Senior, from now on you're my sister. My name is Xian. How should I address you, Senior?" The woman blinked and said, "You can call me Sister Shui." "Sister Shui." Xian nodded and said, "Sister Shui, has your swordsmanship reached the level of the sword master at the top of the tower?" The woman smiled. "Not yet. It's difficult for ordinary people to reach their level." Xian was about to speak when the woman said, "For the time being, you'll stay here and cultivate. You're not allowed to go anywhere." Xian hesitated for a moment then nodded. This was an opportunity for him. Sister Shui obviously wanted to give him some pointers. Just like that, Xian stayed here planting vegetables at sunrise and cultivating at sunset. Heavenly Demon City. Rin Pingxing and Wuxia had not left yet. Both of them were waiting at the entrance of the forbidden area. Rin Pingxing looked at the forbidden area with a gloomy expression, while Wuxia's expression was grave. He knew about the forbidden area but he had never entered it. Only the first clan leader of the Heavenly Demon Clan knew what was inside the forbidden area. The first clan leader of the Heavenly Demon Clan had given a strict order that no one from the Heavenly Demon Clan was allowed to enter the forbidden area. Since ancient times, some Heavenly Demon Clan members had entered out of curiosity. However, they had never come out again. The Heavenly Demon Clan was extremely wary of this place. And now Zhou Xian had entered. Wuxia turned to look at Ren Pingxing. "Brother Ren, you said there's a powerful swordsman inside?" Ren Pingxing asked. "You don't know?" Wuxia was silent. Ren Pingxing slowly closed his eyes. "There is always someone better out there," Wuxia said in a low voice. "What about Zhou Xian?" Ren Pingxing said, "I don't know." Wuxia fell silent for a moment before he said, "Brother Ren, I don't understand. Why do all of you have to go against Zhou Xian?" This was something that he could not understand. After all, Zhou Xian was not some random Tom, Dick or Harry that could be killed at will. Zhou Xian was very mysterious. Moreover, there were many peerless experts who had close ties with him. It could be said that the Dao protector targeting Zhou Xian was tantamount to finding trouble for himself. Ren Pingxing asked softly, "Do you know about prophets?" Wuxia nodded. "I know. He's an amazing person." Ren Pingxing said, "There's something in his study that is extremely harmful to my Dao protector." Wuxia frowned. "What do you mean?" Ren Pingxing said, "At first the prophet's goal was to stop the fifth dimension calamity. He also knew of our existence. According to what we know, he created a divine object that specifically targets us Dao protectors. That object is a natural counter to us. If that was the case, I wouldn't go so far as to go against Zhou Xian. His real goal was not to stop the fifth dimension calamity. It was to completely destroy the fifth dimension calamity." Completely destroy the fifth dimension calamity. Wuxia shook his head. "It's difficult. The fifth dimension tribulation had appeared after the disappearance of the heavenly Dao, and now it had appeared many times. Since ancient times, there had been many superpower houses, but not a single one had been able to truly block the fifth dimension tribulation. Even the invincible arrow could only protect his own country. He couldn't stop the fifth dimension calamity. Moreover, he was seriously injured and lost his memory. Wuxia was also a ruler realm expert, but it was impossible for him to stop the fifth dimension calamity. The prophet wanting to completely destroy the fifth dimension calamity was undoubtedly a fantasy. At this time, Ren Pingxing suddenly said, "It's possible for him to do it." Wuxia looked at Ren Pingxing. "Are you joking?" Ren Pingxing shook his head. "This person's ability is far beyond our realm." Wuxia narrowed his eyes. "The legendary self-release?" Ren Pingxing shook his head again. "I don't know. I only know that he once went to find Tendo. Moreover, he might have met Tendo." "Tendo?" Wuxia's pupils shrank. "He met Tendo?" Ancient experts like them respected Tendo from the bottom of their hearts. Ren Pingxing nodded. "He came to the Tendo star field. However, he didn't look for me or your Heavenly Devil clan. He looked for Tendo. He has seen the Heavenly Dao and he even took something from the Heavenly Dao." Wuxia looked at Ren Pingxing. "How did you know?" Ren Pingxing said calmly. "He said it himself." Wuxia asked, "Why did he tell you?" Ren Pingxing was expressionless. "Back then he almost destroyed my Tendo city. I promised not to invade their star field, so he agreed not to kill my Dao protector. I just didn't expect that he would disappear after so many years." Wuxia said, "Dead." Ren Pingxing shook his head. "There shouldn't be anyone who can kill someone like him unless he wants to die." At this time Wuxia suddenly said, "I understand. You want to kill Zhou Xian not only because there is a divine item in the study that is against you, but also because there is something that the prophet obtained from the way of heaven. Your ultimate goal is to get that unknown divine item, right?" Ren Pingxing nodded. Wuxia said in a low voice, "Why tell me?" Ren Pingxing said, "Do you know why I agreed to coexist with your Heavenly Devil clan?" Wuxia said, "That's what I'm curious about." Ren Pingxing said softly, "This time's fifth dimension calamity is different from the past." Wuxia frowned. "What do you mean?" Ren Pingxing said after a moment of silence, "Ever since Zhou Xian came to the fifth dimension, the land of immortality appeared, Arrow appeared, the fiend race and the divine spirit race appeared one after another. It shouldn't be long before the dimension of nothingness appears in the eyes of the world. The ancient era, the Cambrian era and the Cretaceous era. These three eras have all appeared. It can be said that this era has gathered all the super experts since ancient times. As he said this, he looked at Wuxia. Don't you think that someone is manipulating all of this? Wuxia was silent. Ren Pingxing said again. After the prophet disappeared, all the experts of these eras appeared one after another. Do you think this is really a coincidence? Wuxia said in a low voice. You mean all of this is the prophet's doing? Ren Pingxing shook his head. I'm not sure, but my intuition tells me that all of this is related to him. As he said this, he looked at Wuxia. The prophet's strength isn't just in his strength. It's also his understanding of this world. His understanding of this world is probably above that of Tendo. He once said that he wanted to completely destroy the fifth dimension calamity, but with his strength alone he definitely couldn't do it. So, according to my guess, he wants to gather all the super experts of each era and let everyone unite to fight against the fifth dimension calamity. Wuxia shook his head. Even if all the experts of each era gathered together, it would still be difficult to resist the fifth dimension calamity. Ren Pingxing took a deep breath. His plan is definitely not limited to this. Wuxia was silent. Ren Pingxing said, the reason why I chose to coexist with you is because I want to invite you to fight against the fifth dimension calamity together. Wuxia shook his head. Aren't your protectors supposed to protect the fifth dimension calamity? Ren Pingxing said lightly, I used to be, but now? I have a strong intuition that Tendo won't protect us. The death of the Son of Heaven made me even more certain of this idea. The Son of Heaven was the person he chose, but he was killed by Zhou Xian. Not only did he not help, he also didn't send down the heavenly wrath. I know that he might have already given up on us. Wuxia said in a deep voice, the reason you were able to survive was because of Tendo? Ren Pingxing nodded. But now we haven't contacted Tendo for tens of thousands of years. If Tendo doesn't protect us during the fifth dimension calamity, we will die just like you. Wuxia looked at Ren Pingxing. You want to ally with me? Ren Pingxing nodded slightly. In this era, no matter if it's my Tendo city or your heavenly devil race, we can't be the only ones. If we ally, it will be beneficial for both sides. And that Zhou Xian has the library and the key. If we can kill him and obtain the item inside, we will have more hope of surviving before the fifth dimension calamity. Even if the divine item left behind by the prophet can't destroy the fifth dimension calamity, it can definitely help us survive before it arrives. Wuxia shook his head. You should know that Zhou Xian isn't simple. Let's not talk about anything else, just that Xiao Dao. Ren Pingxing said in a deep voice. She has her own plans for Zhou Xian. Wuxia asked, what do you mean? Ren Pingxing said, this woman contacted Zhou Xian and gave Zhou Xian many benefits. She wouldn't help Zhou Xian for no reason. As for forming good karma, Zhou Xian hasn't reached the point where she would form good karma. In short, Zhou Xian's library is an opportunity for us. I don't want to miss it. Wuxia sighed. The fifth dimension calamity. Ren Pingxing looked at Wuxia. What do you think? Wuxia looked at the forbidden area. It's not important anymore. I don't think he can come out alive. At this moment, Ren Pingxing suddenly said, if he really is the one chosen by the prophet, then he can come out alive. Wuxia was silent. Ren Pingxing said, wait, he will come out. If he comes out, you and I will join hands and he will have no chance of surviving. If we join hands, even if we kill him, there will be great karma. What do we have to be afraid of? Wuxia looked at the forbidden area. Gradually, his eyes became cold. Sword sect, floating mountain. Zhou Xian was planting vegetables while the woman was sweeping the floor. Zhou Xian suddenly looked at the woman. Sister Shui, do you know the woman in the plain dress? The woman glanced at Zhou Xian. I do. Zhou Xian asked again, can you beat her? The woman shook her head. I can't. But my father can fight with her. Hearing this, Zhou Xian was stunned. Then he asked again, who is your dad? He's so powerful. The woman smiled. There was a trace of admiration in her eyes. Pai Dad. Everyone calls him. P.S. I'm too ashamed to ask for votes. Chapter 1044. At this point, the woman suddenly stopped and didn't speak any further. Zhou Xian blinked and asked, what's it called? The woman blinked and smiled. Madman. Zhou Xian frowned slightly. Madman? The woman nodded. Yes. Zhou Xian wanted to say something else, but the woman suddenly put down the broom and said, have you learned anything from growing vegetables? Zhou Xian shook his head. I don't think so. The woman said, "Then your heart is not calm enough." Yi Xian said in a deep voice, "How can I be calm?" The woman said, "Realize it yourself." With that she turned around and left. "Realize it yourself." Yi Xian remained silent on the spot. At this moment the person on the 9th floor suddenly said, "This woman is not simple." Yi Xian asked, "What do you mean?" The person on the 9th floor said, "Her strength is definitely not inferior to Arrow. It's not just her, even the old man who called her Miss is not simple. What I'm curious about is how this woman knows you." Yi Xian shook his head, "I'm also curious." The person on the 9th floor suddenly said, "Do you think she knows you because of your father?" Yi Xian said in a deep voice, "I think it's possible." The person on the 9th floor sighed, "I've been following you for so long, but I find that you're getting more and more mysterious." Yi Xian. In the following days Yi Xian grew vegetables every day, and after that he cooked. The mysterious woman was full of praise for Yi Xian's cooking. On this day the mysterious woman came to the sword sex hall, and she looked at the statue of the man in green and fell into deep thought. Behind the woman was the white-haired old man with a sword case. The white-haired old man suddenly said, "Miss, is he really?" The mysterious woman smiled, "What do you think?" Hearing this, the white-haired old man's eyes suddenly turned cold. "That person outside dared to chase after him, I shouldn't have held back." With that he turned around and left. The mysterious woman suddenly said, "What?" The white-haired old man said coldly, "This old servant will go kill him." The mysterious woman shook her head. "No need." The white-haired elder was a little puzzled. "Miss Why?" The mysterious woman said softly, "He will solve his own problems." The white-haired old man wanted to say something but hesitated. The mysterious woman continued, "He is still too weak." The white-haired old man said, "He's still young." The mysterious woman smiled and said, "I'm not young anymore." As she spoke, she turned to look in the direction of Yi Xian in the distance with a trace of worry in her eyes. At this moment I finally understand why father did what he did back then. He had too much karma on him. Also it's very complicated. The white-haired old man said, "Is master unable to sever this karma?" The mysterious woman shook her head. "No." The white-haired elder was puzzled. "Why?" The mysterious woman smiled and said, "Because he is the source of all karma." "How can I sever him?" "Kill him." The white-haired old man was silent. The mysterious woman continued, "The fifth dimension tribulation is about to arrive. He is the key." The white-haired old man said, "Miss, should we take him away?" The mysterious woman shook her head. "Not for now. He still needs to suffer a bit. Right now his sense of danger is still too weak. Moreover, he is a bit sloppy. We should let him suffer a bit more." The white-haired old man hesitated and said, "It's very dangerous." The mysterious woman smiled and said, "It's not dangerous enough. If he can't even deal with a mere ruler realm cultivator, how will he face those people with us in the future?" As she spoke, she seemed to have thought of something and shook her head with a sigh. "This fellow is even more cunning than father in the past. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing." The white-haired old man said, "It's already amazing that his sword path has entered the mortal realm at such a young age." The mysterious woman smiled and didn't say anything else. She looked up at the statue of the green-robed man with a trace of worry in her eyes. This world was more dangerous than what she had seen. In the vegetable garden, the white-haired old man suddenly came to Yi Xian's side. Yi Xian quickly put down the water bottle in his hand and respectfully bowed. "Senior." The white-haired old man nodded slightly. "There's no need for formalities. Just call me Old Man Gu." Yi Xian said, "Old Man Gu, are you from the sword sect?" The white-haired old man nodded. "Yes." Yi Xian asked, "How many members of the sword sect are left?" The white-haired old man replied, "Quite a few. However, some of the truly formidable ones aren't here. They've gone somewhere else." Yi Xian asked, "Somewhere else?" The white-haired old man nodded. Yi Xian hesitated for a moment and said, "That green-robed man is the founding ancestor of the sword sect, right?" The white-haired old man replied, "Yes." Yi Xian asked, "He's still alive, right?" The white-haired old man nodded. "Of course." Yi Xian spoke solemnly, "Where is he now?" The white-haired old man glanced at Yi Xian. "A very far place." Yi Xian continued asking, "Where is it?" The white-haired old man gazed at Yi Xian. You really want to know? Yi Xian nodded. The white-haired old man said, "You're slightly weak now, so you have to become stronger. Once you're strong, you'll be able to go to that place." Yi Xian was speechless. The white-haired old man spoke abruptly. "You can ask me some questions about the sword Dao." Yi Xian was stunned and then he was overjoyed. What he lacked now was someone who could guide him on the path of the sword. It was truly too difficult to rely on himself to figure it out. The Endless City. Within the pawnshop, Xiao Dao sat behind the counter and was sound asleep. Right at this moment, a man walked into the pawnshop. This man was none other than Lin Mo of the Heavenly Fiend clan. Lin Mo looked at Xiao Dao behind the counter and bowed slightly. "Greetings, Senior Xiao Dao." Xiao Dao raised his head to look at Lin Mo of the Heavenly Fiend clan. Lin Mo bowed respectfully again. "That's right." Xiao Dao said indifferently. "What's the matter?" Lin Mo said, "I want to verify two things with Miss Xiao Dao." Xiao Dao smiled. "I'm charging a lot." Lin Mo nodded. "I'll make Miss Xiao Dao satisfied." Xiao Dao smiled. "Speak." Lin Mo said, "If my Heavenly Fiend clan targets Yi Xian, will Miss Xiao Dao interfere?" Xiao Dao looked at Lin Mo without saying a word. Lin Mo was about to ask when Xiao Dao suddenly said, "I'll give this question to you for free. Yi Xian and I can be considered half friends. However, if you guys attack him, I won't interfere. It's not my turn to interfere. I really don't want to interfere in his affairs. The more I do, the more trouble it'll cause." Lin Mo's expression relaxed slightly. "There's one more thing. According to what we know, that Yi Xian has a mysterious woman in a plain dress behind him. Who is she?" As he spoke, he took out a ring and placed it on Xiao Dao's counter. Xiao Dao shook her head. "You guys don't need to ask this question." Lin Mo was slightly puzzled. "Why?" Xiao Dao smiled. "Because this question is too expensive. You can't even afford it if you use the treasures of your Heavenly Fiend clan. Do you understand?" Lin Mo's expression sank when he heard this. Who exactly was this woman in a plain dress? At this moment, Xiao Dao suddenly said, "Your Heavenly Fiend clan has joined forces with the Dao Protector?" Lin Mo nodded. Xiao Dao nodded slightly and didn't say anything else. Lin Mo said in a deep voice, "Miss Xiao Dao, let me change the question. Is there really something in the study that can resist the fifth dimension?" Xiao Dao suddenly picked up the storage ring. After glancing at it, she smiled. "You guys are really willing to part with it." After she finished speaking, she put the storage ring away and said, "There is indeed something in the study that can resist the fifth dimension." Lin Mo bowed respectfully. "Thank you." With that, he turned around and left. At this moment, Xiao Dao suddenly said, "According to what I know, you guys chose to help Yi Xian." Lin Mo nodded. "He and Tendo City are mortal enemies, and at that time, we in Tendo City were mortal enemies as well. But now we've joined forces with Tendo City." Xiao Dao looked at Lin Mo. "Tendo City agreed to coexist with Tendo City?" Lin Mo nodded. Xiao Dao fell silent. Lin Mo hesitated for a moment and then he said, "Miss Xiao Dao, do you have any guidance?" Xiao Dao shook her head and sighed. "The Heaven's Chosen has already been killed by him, right?" Lin Mo nodded. Xiao Dao asked again, "No heavenly wrath has descended?" Lin Mo nodded again. "No heavenly wrath." Xiao Dao smiled. "It's nothing. You can leave." Lin Mo glanced at Xiao Dao, bowed respectfully and then left. Within the pawnshop, Xiao Dao shook her head slightly. At this moment, a one-legged woman suddenly floated into the pawnshop. The one-legged woman looked at Xiao Dao, not saying a word. Xiao Dao smiled. "I overestimated the Heaven's Chosen." Saying this, she frowned. "No. The Heaven's Chosen shouldn't be so stupid." Saying this, she suddenly laughed. "This Tendo is getting more and more playful. That's not right. The Tendo gave the Son of Heaven a chance, but he didn't have a choice. The Heaven's Chosen should not only conform to the Tendo, but also to humanity and the Great Tao. When the Son of Heaven saw the Tendo brush, he should have understood what it meant. Perhaps he really didn't understand, or perhaps he was faking it. No matter what, he didn't conform to humanity and the Great Tao. He didn't even conform to the Tendo. If he doesn't die, who will?" The one-legged woman was expressionless, not saying a word. Xiao Dao smiled. The meeting between Yi Xian and the Son of Heaven wasn't a coincidence. Both of them had a choice. In other words, the Tendo gave the Dao protectors a choice and also gave Yi Xian a choice. The Tendo wanted to see if the Dao protectors were willing to change, and also if Yi Xian would kill them all, not giving the Dao protectors any chance. Yi Xian chose to help the Son of Heaven, which meant that he was willing to give the Son of Heaven and the Dao protectors a chance. Unfortunately, the Dao Lord and the Son of Heaven still had their eyes on the myriad dimension book room. As she said that, she looked at the one-legged woman. The Dao protectors received the Tendo's protection, but they didn't understand the Tendo's intention. They insisted on becoming enemies with Yi Xian. They wanted to kill the Tendo, but this Tendo was also a scoundrel. He directly cut off all karma with them. That Dao Lord and the others probably didn't understand why the Tendo would abandon them even in death. It's fine if they killed themselves. But they still wanted to kill the Heavenly Fiend clan. The Heavenly Fiend clan is also too. A good karma was forcefully turned into a bad karma. At this moment, the one-legged woman suddenly spoke. Without that plain-dressed woman, what would happen? Hearing this, Xiao Dao suddenly became silent. The one-legged woman turned to leave. When she reached the door, she stopped again. The reason why he could live such a long life was because of that woman. The reason why the Tendo did this was also because of that woman. Without that woman, what would happen to him? Xiao Dao suddenly said. Without that plain-dressed woman, the prophet and the green-robed man. Don't you think it's infuriating? The one-legged woman. Chapter 1045. At the entrance of the pawn shop. The one-legged woman shook her head. She did not want to speak. Yi Xian's backer made her speechless. Xiao Dao smiled. There are no ifs in this world. Also, Yi Xian's true strength is not because he has a few backers. The one-legged woman turned to look at Xiao Dao. The prophet. Xiao Dao said softly, those who are not within the rules, some are heartless, some are sentimental. The one who is heartless, other than wanting to die, he doesn't care about anything. I don't know what to say about this kind of person. As for the two who are sentimental, their sentiments are small, selfish, Xiao Dao. But the prophet's sentiments are the great Dao, the true great Dao. In this world there are many bad people, but there are also good people. In this world, there are really some people who will sacrifice themselves for all living beings in the world. You can say that this kind of person is stupid, but you can't help but admire him. Saying that, she looked at the prophet. The prophet wants others to help him, but why are there so many people helping him? Even the Supreme Tendo chose to give him a chance? Because he is selfless, truly selfless. What he does is not for himself at all, but for all living beings. He cares about the common people, and for all living beings in the world he does not hesitate to sacrifice himself. This kind of behavior even the former Tendo could not do. That's not right. The Tendo does not have evil intentions towards the living beings in the world, he is just disappointed. And this prophet, although he is also disappointed, he is trying his best to do it, to save. The one-legged woman was silent. Xiao Dao looked at the one-legged woman. Do you really think that he can have such good fortune because of the plain-dressed woman? The plain-dressed woman can be feared but not respected. Take you for example, do you respect or fear the prophet? The one-legged woman said, respect. Xiao Dao nodded. For such a person to have such great fortune, what's abnormal about it? The one-legged woman suddenly said, the fifth dimension calamity. Xiao Dao smiled. You want to know about the fifth dimension calamity? The one-legged woman nodded. Xiao Dao shook his head. I can't tell you the details. The one-legged woman frowned slightly. At this time Xiao Dao said, the fifth dimension tribulation is the tribulation of all living beings. This tribulation targeted all living beings, and the only ones who could resolve this tribulation were the living beings themselves. Unfortunately, all living beings only had greed in their hearts. Of course we can't blame them because, as she said that, she pointed at herself, because we, the strongest people, are also the greediest people. If we are not greedy, how can we reach the peak of this world? The prophet understands this, and so he is guilty. We understand this, but we are not guilty. Whether it was humans or other creatures, they all felt that the world owed them something and they could demand it from the world. This was especially so for some people. After they borrowed the power of the world to become stronger, they still wanted to defy the heavens and so on. In reality, the world never owed the masses anything. However, what do all living beings give to the world in return? The one-legged woman fell into deep thought. Xiao Dao smiled and said, the prophet was very smart. He knew that in order to change he had to enlighten all living beings. However, he later understood that in order to enlighten all living beings, he must first have the opportunity. And in order to have the opportunity, he must first block the fifth dimension tribulation. As she said that, she shook her head. He really worried himself to death. The one-legged woman suddenly said, "He won't succeed." Xiao Dao softly said, "I know." The one-legged woman looked at Xiao Dao. Xiao Dao softly said, "No matter what, I still hope he succeeds. There is no harm in making this world a bit more beautiful." The one-legged woman suddenly said, "Who are you?" Xiao Dao blinked. "Guess." The one-legged woman shook her head. "I guess your mother." After saying that, she turned around and left. Xiao Dao's face was full of black lines. Civilization. Sword sect, floating mountain. In the vegetable garden, Yi Xian was watering the plants, but he couldn't calm down no matter what. He had too many things on his mind. At this time, the mysterious woman suddenly said, "Little Xian, come here." Little Xian. This was the name given to him by the mysterious woman. He was also speechless, unable to resist. Yi Xian walked to the mysterious woman's side. The mysterious woman smiled and said, "Can't calm down?" Yi Xian nodded. "Too many things on my mind." The mysterious woman blinked. "Do you want me to help you?" A bad feeling rose in Yi Xian's heart. Just as he was about to speak, the mysterious woman suddenly waved her right hand. In an instant, Yi Xian felt his vision go black, unable to see anything. A moment later, Yi Xian looked around. It was pitch black, unable to see anything. Yi Xian frowned. He said, "Senior." There was no response. Yi Xian sensed the prison pagoda, but he was shocked to find that the pagoda had disappeared. It must have been taken away by the mysterious woman. Yi Xian's face sank. He looked around. The other party should want him to calm down. Could he calm down in this pitch-black night? Yi Xian fell silent for a moment, then he sat down cross-legged and calmed his mind. At first it was fine. But gradually Yi Xian found that he still couldn't calm down. He had too many things to think about. Not only could he not calm down, but he was also becoming more and more agitated. However, Yi Xian didn't force himself to leave because he wanted to calm down as well. Outside, the mysterious woman looked at Xiao Ta in her hand and smiled. "This Xiao Ta is quite interesting. It's similar to Dad's pagoda." Behind the mysterious woman, the white-haired old man nodded slightly. "Indeed." With that, he paused slightly and then said, "Miss He, can he comprehend it?" The mysterious woman said indifferently, "I'm giving him a chance. Whether he can grasp it or not depends on his own fortune. His heart is truly too impetuous. A person can be flashy but a sword can't. To do something, one must be serious and focused. If he could understand this, then his state of mind in the way of the sword would definitely rise to a higher level." The white-haired old man nodded. The mysterious woman suddenly knocked on the prison pagoda. "Let me in to play." The prison pagoda shook slightly as if saying something. The mysterious woman narrowed her eyes. "You won't let me in?" With that, she suddenly slashed at the sky with her sword. Whoosh. Suddenly, a huge hole was torn open in the sky. At this moment, the prison pagoda shook violently as if expressing something. The mysterious woman blinked. "I didn't threaten you, did I?" The prison pagoda shook lightly. The mysterious woman smiled. "Then I'm going in." The prison pagoda. At this moment, the mysterious woman suddenly entered the prison pagoda. Inside the prison pagoda looked around. In the end, she came to the top of the pagoda. Looking at the sword at the top of the pagoda, her eyes flickered. In the endless night, Yi Xian sat cross-legged on the ground. At this moment, he was becoming more and more irritated. After discovering that he was irritated, Yi Xian's expression suddenly became gloomy. When did he become so irritated? Thinking of this, Yi Xian shook his head. All these years he had been too impulsive. Yi Xian took a deep breath and completely relaxed. At this moment he did not think about anything else. Just like this, time passed bit by bit. In this pitch-black night, Yi Xian could no longer feel the passage of time. At this moment his heart was calm and he did not think or think. Outside, the mysterious woman was lying on a chair. She held an ancient book in her left hand and was reading it with great interest. Behind her, the white-haired old man stood silently. After an unknown amount of time, the mysterious woman suddenly smiled. "This prophet is quite interesting." The white-haired old man did not say anything. The mysterious woman suddenly looked not far away. There Xian's figure suddenly appeared. Seeing this, a trace of surprise flashed in the mysterious woman's eyes. So fast. At this moment Xian's figure suddenly became solid. Xian slowly opened his eyes. He looked around, his eyes very calm. The mysterious woman stood up and walked over to Xian. She smiled and said, "Do you understand?" Xian nodded. "I understand." The mysterious woman asked, "What is calmness?" Xian fell silent for a moment and then he said, "If the heart is calm, then it will be fine even if a myriad of changes occur. When the heart is calm, the world is calm. Calmness comes from the heart, not the state." As he spoke, he looked at the mysterious woman. "The reason I'm impetuous is because I think too much and my thoughts are complicated. I should do my best in everything." The mysterious woman shook her head. "You don't really understand it. However, being able to think of all this is already good enough." As she spoke, she lightly patted Xian on the shoulder. "Do your best." Xian hesitated for a moment and then he said, "Please enlighten me, Sister Shui." The mysterious woman shook her head. "You can only comprehend it on your own. What others tell you doesn't have that feeling and you won't truly understand it. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so few top-notch swordsmen in this world." Xian smiled. "Indeed." As he spoke, he hesitated to speak. The mysterious woman said, "What do you want to say?" Xian said with a straight face, "Sister Shui, my cultivation level is too low. If I want to improve my cultivation level, then I need a good sword." The mysterious woman said, "You need a sword." Xian nodded. The mysterious woman thought for a moment, and then she took out a storage ring and handed it to Xian. "For you." Xian was stunned and then he glanced at the storage ring. Soon his expression became solemn. There were 12 swords in the storage ring and all 12 of them were peerless swords. He was a little reluctant to devour them. The mysterious woman suddenly asked, "Is it enough?" Xian blinked. Do you have more?" The mysterious woman smiled. "No." Xian was speechless. "You're asking me if it's enough." The mysterious woman said, "Break through while I still have time. I can protect you." Xian nodded. He sat down cross-legged and then he took out a sword and stabbed it into his stomach. Boom. A powerful force swept out from his body. A trace of surprise flashed through the mysterious woman's eyes. "You're devouring?" Xian nodded. "Devouring sword." The mysterious woman said, "Your cultivation method is very strange. Who taught you?" Xian said, "The woman in the plain dress." The mysterious woman said softly, "It's her." With that she looked at Xian. "Break through quickly. Once you do, I'll take you to a good place. P.S. This year isn't peaceful. I hope everyone is safe. I also wish everyone a happy New Year's Eve. As for the eruption, I haven't forgotten. You know, I just got married and it's New Year's Eve. It's very annoying to visit relatives during this period. You should understand. I promise, under normal circumstances, I won't let the eruption disappear for no reason." Chapter 1046. Xian quickly asked, "What good place?" The mysterious woman smiled. "I won't tell you yet." Xian was speechless. The mysterious woman said, "Hurry up and break through." Xian nodded. He closed his eyes and calmly devoured the energy in his body. He had to admit that the sword the mysterious woman had given him was of the highest quality. The energy in the sword he was devouring was too pure. It was a great supplement for him. The sword the mysterious woman had given him was 2 levels lower than the Executing Heaven sword and soul-suppressing sword. The mysterious woman looked at Xian with a faint smile. No one knew what she was thinking. Sky Demon City. Rin Pingxing and Wuxia were still at the entrance of the forbidden area. They had been waiting here for a few days. Wuxia looked at the entrance with a solemn expression. Rin Pingxing had invited him to deal with Xian together, but he was still worried. Therefore he sent Lin Mo to the boundless underground city to verify something. Looking at the time, Lin Mo should be back by now. Suddenly, the space before him trembled, and it didn't take long for a man to appear in front of him. It was Lin Mo. Rin Pingxing looked at Lin Mo but did not speak. Lin Mo walked to Wuxia's side and bowed slightly. Then he spoke in a low voice. A moment later, Wuxia slowly closed his eyes. "Pathmaster, I agree to your suggestion." Rin Pingxing nodded. "Very well. With the Sky Demon Clan's help, They would be more confident in dealing with the people behind Zhou Xian. Wuxia looked at the entrance. Maybe he's already dead. Ren Pingxing shook his head. Definitely not. Wuxia said, why are you so sure? Ren Pingxing said, intuition. Wuxia was silent. For elites of their level, intuition was very accurate most of the time. For example, at the moment his instinct was that something bad would definitely happen if he targeted Zhou Xian. However, one could not act based on intuition. Ren Pingxing said, he will definitely come out. Let's just wait. Wuxia said, let's talk about what happens after we kill him. Ren Pingxing said, arrow? Xiao Dao. Wuxia said, Miss Xiao Dao has made it clear that she won't act if we kill Zhou Xian. Ren Pingxing said softly, then there is only arrow. I don't believe that a mere Zhou Xian would make her fight to the death with our two clans. Even if she wants to avenge Zhou Xian, the two of us together can suppress her. Wuxia said solemnly, there's one more. Ren Pingxing said, the swordsman behind Zhou Xian? Wuxia nodded. After a moment of silence, Ren Pingxing said, if we work together, no one in this world can kill us. Unless the Tendo was born. And Tendo will not help Zhou Xian like this. After a moment of silence, Wuxia nodded. That's true. At the sword sect, Zhou Xian sat cross-legged on the ground. His aura was getting stronger. Not just his aura, but his swordsmanship was also much stronger than before. Swordsman cultivated the sword but also the heart. Every improvement in his state of mind was equivalent to an improvement in his swordsmanship. But now that his swordsmanship had entered the mortal realm, it would be difficult for him to improve it again. Because if he improved again, he would be at the same level as Arrow. To reach the level of the plain-dressed woman was even more difficult. The white-haired elder suddenly walked up to the mysterious woman. Miss, the two people outside are still here. Do you want me to kill them? The mysterious woman said, no need. The white-haired elder hesitated, wanting to say something. The mysterious woman said softly, it would be too embarrassing if he couldn't kill these small fries himself. The white-haired elder asked, why don't you keep him by your side, master? The mysterious woman smiled. Why should I keep him? Father is so powerful, what can he do if I keep him by my side? Not to mention him, father also didn't keep me by his side, right? Our family has this tradition. Let them roam, let them roam. At this point she smiled mysteriously. I know why father let us roam free, because he was once roamed by grandfather. He holds a grudge, huh? While laughing, she seemed to feel that something was wrong and wanted to stop, but she couldn't help it, so she laughed again. The white-haired elder. At this time the mysterious woman said, however, he is different. I don't know what father is doing, but since that woman is related to this little guy, then this matter is a bit abnormal. The plain-dressed woman. She knew that there was no one who didn't fear this woman. Although she was still young at that time, she could not forget what this woman had done. What fifth dimension tribulation? This woman was even more terrifying than a fifth dimension tribulation. The three swords on the top of the pagoda, each of their masters had a different personality. The green-robed man's sword and the plain-dressed woman's sword were similar. They seemed to be emotionless, but they had feelings. Of course, these feelings were personal. Although the green-robed man's feelings were selfish, they were not extreme. Moreover, he still had compassion for the common people of the world, so he would not destroy them for no reason. But this plain-dressed woman's feelings were different. They were extreme to the extreme. From a certain point of view, this woman's sword was even more emotionless than that of the other emotionless swordsman. At this time, Zhou Xian suddenly picked up a sword and stabbed it into his abdomen. Boom! A powerful wave of energy once again spread out from his body. Extremely abundant energy. Zhou Xian greedily took a deep breath and then crazily absorbed this energy. At the side, the mysterious woman glanced at Zhou Xian, then entered the prison pagoda. He came to the third floor. At this moment Lil Ling was refining elixirs. Beside her was a spirit, and that spirit was helping her. Behind the two little fellows, there was also a little pet following them. This little pet was the heaven-warring beast that Yan Zong had given to Zhou Xian. If Zhou Xian was here, he would definitely be shocked because this little fellow was a lot bigger than before. This heaven-warring beast was very docile as it followed Xiaolinger and the spirit. These two little fellows in front of it were its parents. As the last beast of the heaven-warring beast clan, it knew very well that there were too few people in this world who could support it. It had to hug onto these people's thighs. When it saw the mysterious woman, the heaven-warring beast immediately stood in front of Xiaolinger and the spirit. It glared angrily at the mysterious woman and roared. It had to be said that its bestial aura was very powerful. The mysterious woman sized up the heaven-warring beast and nodded. When it grows up, its combat strength will definitely be good. The heaven-warring beast was about to pounce when Xiaolinger suddenly called out, "Piglet." Hearing this, the heaven-warring beast immediately stopped and hurriedly pounced at Xiaolinger's feet. It was very docile. Xiaolinger looked at the mysterious woman and said, "You're not a bad person." The mysterious woman smiled. "How do you know that I'm not a bad person?" Xiaolinger said, "I guessed it." The mysterious woman blinked. "Guessed it?" Xiaolinger nodded. "Bad people are usually shifty-eyed. You're so beautiful, so you're definitely not a bad person." The mysterious woman immediately laughed. After laughing for a while, she said seriously, "I think what you said makes a lot of sense." As she spoke, she walked to Xiaolinger's side and looked at the alchemy furnace. "You're refining pills?" Xiaolinger nodded, and then she took out a white jade bottle and handed it to the mysterious woman. "You're big brother's sister, so you're also my sister. Beautiful sister, this is for you." Beautiful sister. The mysterious woman was very satisfied with this form of address. She glanced at the white jade bottle in her hand and shook her head slightly. "These pills of yours aren't good." "Well, it's not that you're not good, it's that the quality of these pills is too low." As she spoke, she took out an ancient book and handed it to Xiaoling. "This is for you. This was left behind by my father. However, I'm not interested in alchemy, so I'll give it to you." Xiaolinger blinked, and then she took the ancient book and flipped it open. Her eyes quickly lit up. "Good stuff." Xiaolinger put the ancient book away without batting an eyelid, and then she looked at the mysterious woman. "Thank you, beautiful sister." The mysterious woman smiled and said, "I have another good thing." As soon as she spoke, she took out a small box and handed it to Xiaoling. Little Linger blinked, and then she said, "For me?" The mysterious woman nodded. "For you." Xiaolinger hesitated for a moment, and then she said, "Big brother doesn't allow me to take things from others. But you're big brother's sister, so you're my sister. So you're not someone else." As soon as she finished speaking, she took the box. The mysterious woman roared with laughter at the sight of this. Xiaolinger was about to open the box when the mysterious woman suddenly said, "Don't open it now. Open it when you're in danger, understand?" Xiaolinger blinked and nodded. "Understood. Understood." As soon as she finished speaking, she put the box away. As if she'd thought of something, she hurriedly took out a white jade bottle and handed it to the mysterious woman. The mysterious woman said, "What's this?" Xiaolinger said, "Violet energy." The mysterious woman opened the white jade bottle, and there were many strands of extremely pure violet energy within it. The mysterious woman smiled when she saw the violet energy. "That little fellow." As she spoke, she put away the violet energy and said, "The ancient book on alchemy that I gave you is good stuff. You have to learn how to refine pills in it, understand?" Xiaolinger hurriedly nodded. "I understand." The mysterious woman nodded slightly, and then she glanced at the heaven-warring beast by her side. "This little fellow isn't bad. Take good care of him and he'll be very useful in the future. Right, I'll go take a look elsewhere." As soon as she finished speaking, she turned around and disappeared. After the mysterious woman left, Good Spirit by Xiaolinger's side suddenly said, "This human is so dangerous." Xiaolinger looked at Good Spirit. "If you encounter someone you can't defeat in the future, remember to flatter them, understand?" Good Spirit blinked. "Flatter?" Xiaolinger nodded and said seriously, "You have to learn how to flatter, just like Big Brother." Chapter 1047. After the mysterious woman left the 3rd floor, she went to the 5th floor. This was where Yiling was cultivating in seclusion. Yiling was cultivating in seclusion to comprehend the rebirth state. The rebirth state was not easy to comprehend. Even now, experts at the rebirth state were few and far between. The mysterious woman looked at Yiling with a faint smile on her face. "Interesting." After saying that, she went to the 9th floor. The person on the 9th floor suddenly said, "I am a good person." The mysterious woman smiled. "I want to make sure that you have no ill intentions towards him." The person on the 9th floor said, "I have no ill intentions towards him." The mysterious woman looked at the entrance of the 9th floor with a smile. However, the smile was a little terrifying. The person on the ninth floor suddenly said, "Heavens have mercy, I really have no ill intentions towards him." The mysterious woman shook her head. "You are in danger." After saying that, a sword intent appeared on her fingertips. The person on the ninth floor quickly said, "Your Excellency, I am a good person. If you don't believe me, you can ask that kid." At this moment, the mysterious woman suddenly smiled. "I know you have no ill intentions. I was just joking with you. Sorry for disturbing you." After saying that, she disappeared. In the ninth floor, a sigh suddenly sounded. "Is it easy for me? I..." Outside the prison pagoda, Zhou Xian had already devoured close to 10 swords. The aura he exuded had far exceeded the karma state. However, he still did not enter the rebirth state. About 3 days later, Zhou Xian, who had been sitting on the ground with his legs crossed, suddenly opened his eyes. He stood up slowly. In an instant, a powerful aura surged out of his body like waves. Boom! The surrounding space suddenly trembled violently. Zhou Xian looked at his body. At this moment, his body contained an extremely powerful force. Rebirth state? However, there was no such thing. At this moment, the mysterious woman suddenly said, "You have now encountered a half-step rebirth state. In order to truly enter the rebirth state, you must comprehend it. If you are lucky, you may enter the rebirth state tomorrow. If you are unlucky, you may never enter the rebirth state." Zhou Xian said in a deep voice, "Sister Shui, how can I enter the rebirth state?" The mysterious woman said, "That is up to you. It is useless for me to tell you." Zhou Xian was speechless. The mysterious woman continued, "Come with me to a place." With that, she turned around and left. On the way, Zhou Xian quickly asked, "Sister Shui, where are we going?" The mysterious woman said, "You'll know once you get there." As she spoke, she suddenly turned to look at Zhou Xian. "The person in your body, do you know anything about him?" Zhou Xian was stunned, and then he said, "The ninth floor?" The mysterious woman nodded. Zhou Xian said, "I don't know much about him, but this senior has helped me a lot." The mysterious woman nodded. "He's not simple. You have to be careful." She did not use her profound energy to transmit her voice. Hence, she had purposely said those words for the ninth floor to hear. The person on the ninth floor suddenly said, "Sir, I have a motive. But don't worry, I don't have any ill intentions towards him." The mysterious woman nodded. "I know. However, it doesn't mean that there won't be any in the future." The ninth floor was silent. Zhou Xian suddenly said, "I will work hard to become stronger." The mysterious woman nodded. There was a trace of admiration in her eyes. "Smart. With strength, others won't choose to be your enemy. But you still need to work hard." Zhou Xian smiled. "Sister Shui, can I ask you a question?" The mysterious woman nodded. "Go ahead." Zhou Xian said in a deep voice, "Sister Shui, who are you?" He was still very curious about the mysterious woman's identity. Too curious. Not only was this woman powerful, but she was also very friendly to him. Friendly to the point that it was abnormal. The mysterious woman smiled. "You will know in the future." Zhou Xian was speechless. The mysterious woman suddenly said, "Do you know about the fifth dimension tribulation?" Zhou Xian nodded. The mysterious woman smiled. "This tribulation is not simple. Before it arrives, you must become strong enough. Do you understand?" Zhou Xian said in a deep voice, "Sister Shui, is there a sixth dimension?" The universe he was currently in was a fifth dimension universe. Was there a sixth dimension above the fifth dimension? This was what he was curious about. Xiao Dao definitely knew, but this woman didn't want to say it. The mysterious woman smiled. "I don't know the answer to your question." Zhou Xian frowned. "You don't know either?" The mysterious woman nodded. "The world is very big. It's so big that it surpasses our imagination." As she spoke, she opened her palm. There was a drop of water in her palm. The mysterious woman looked at Zhou Xian. "Do you know how many lives are contained in this drop of water?" Zhou Xian shook his head. "I don't know." The mysterious woman smiled. "A drop of water contains countless lives." Zhou Xian frowned. "Sister Shui, are you sure?" The mysterious woman nodded. "Essence. What is essence? If you understand this, you will truly become immortal." Zhou Xian was silent. Essence. Up until now, the stronger he became, the more ignorant he felt. The mysterious woman suddenly said, "Do you know about prophets?" Zhou Xian nodded. "I know. Senior also knows." The mysterious woman nodded. Just as she was about to speak, she suddenly looked in front of her. We're here. Zhou Xian looked in front of him. There was a wasteland. In that wasteland there were many swords stabbed into the ground. The entire wasteland was filled with powerful sword intents. There wasn't just one type of sword intents but many types. Zhou Xian asked, Sister Shui, where is this? The mysterious woman smiled. Sword mound. Sword mound? Zhou Xian was a little puzzled. Just as he was about to ask, the mysterious woman said, Bow. Zhou Xian was stunned. Bow. The mysterious woman suddenly said, Hurry up. Zhou Xian hesitated for a moment, then bowed respectfully towards the sword mound. The mysterious woman walked into the sword tomb, glanced at the surroundings and said, Your sword Dao is the Dao of that woman, so her Dao is naturally correct. However, she only gave you a direction in the sword Dao. Your understanding of the sword Dao is too little, so it'll be impossible for you to cultivate a sword Dao of your own even if you cultivate for 100 years. No path can be built behind closed doors. Our swordsman path is even more so. As she said this, she looked around. Can be said that the swordsmen here are the most powerful swordsmen in the five-dimensional universe. They once followed my father and pursued the pinnacle of the sword path. Some of them are still alive, but most of them are dead. At this point she was silent for a moment, then said, Bow again. Hearing this, Zhou Xian did not hesitate and bowed respectfully again. At this moment he was shocked. The most powerful swordsman in the entire five-dimensional universe. This sentence was a little terrifying. At this time, the mysterious woman suddenly bowed slightly towards the sword mound. Uncles, thank you for your trouble. As soon as her voice fell, phantoms suddenly appeared in the sword mound. Seeing this scene, Zhou Xian's expression suddenly became dignified. Not long after, 36 phantoms appeared in the field. Although these phantoms were not real, the sword intent contained in each of them was extremely powerful. Not only that, these people stood there like sharp swords, as if they could even cut the sky into pieces. Powerful. One could imagine how terrifying it would be if these swordsmen were still alive. At this moment, Zhou Xian finally believed the mysterious woman's words. The most powerful swordsman in the five-dimensional universe. These swordsmen in front of him were probably only second to the sword master at the top of the pagoda. In the field, the swordsmen's eyes fell on Zhou Xian. When they saw Zhou Xian, they were all stunned for a moment, then an inexplicable smile appeared on their faces. Zhou Xian was a little puzzled by their stares. These swordsmen knew him? At this time, the mysterious woman suddenly looked at Zhou Xian. Go over. Zhou Xian hesitated for a moment, then walked over. The mysterious woman said, Learn well. After saying that, she turned around and left. At this time, a swordsman suddenly appeared in front of Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian was about to speak when a sword suddenly pierced between his eyebrows. Zhou Xian was dumbfounded. He was gone. At this time, a voice resounded in his ears. How was that strike just now? Zhou Xian looked at the swordsman who spoke. The swordsman smiled and said, My sword Dao, sometimes false and sometimes real, sometimes false and sometimes real. Between false and real, I can change at will, Zhou Xian said in a deep voice. So strong. The swordsman smiled and said, The same is true for all things. Most of the time what you see is not necessarily true. True and real, everything depends on your heart, Zhou Xian asked in a deep voice. What is Senior's sword Dao? The swordsman smiled and said, Do you want to learn? Zhou Xian nodded. The swordsman smiled and said, My sword Dao is neither difficult nor difficult. It depends on your own comprehension. Zhou Xian respectfully bowed. Please enlighten me, Senior. The swordsman smiled and said, Come, draw your sword. Zhou Xian nodded and decisively drew his sword. For the rest of the time, Zhou Xian stayed in the sword catacomb. He studied almost every day without rest. Sword Dao. All this while he knew too little about sword Dao. The woman in the plain dress gave him a direction, but she did not give him the process. In other words, the woman in the plain dress would not teach a newbie how to practice the sword. Under such circumstances, he could only rely on himself to explore his sword Dao. It was very difficult to explore on his own because he might go the wrong way. Now, with so many powerful swordsmen in front of him, he was exposed to all kinds of powerful sword Daos. For him, this was equivalent to opening a new door to sword Dao. Learn, integrate. In the following days, Zhou Xian studied crazily every single day. He had never been as serious as he was at this moment. Although his strength did not improve, his knowledge of swordsmanship was increasing day by day. The Heavenly Fiend clan. Rin Pingxing, who was still guarding the entrance of the forbidden area, suddenly said, "Go in." Wuxia looked at Rin Pingxing and said, "Go in." Rin Pingxing said in a deep voice, "You and I can definitely kill that old swordsman if we work together. If we keep waiting here, we can only be passive. Moreover, the study room on Xian is very likely to fall into the hands of others." Wuxia was silent. Rin Pingxing looked at Wuxia and asked, "Are we going to risk it?" Wuxia nodded after a moment of silence. "Let's do it. P.S. Happy Lunar New Year again. After writing for so many years, I'm grateful for the company and support of all my readers. I'm sincerely grateful to those who have always supported me. You're my bread and butter. Thank you. When I become popular, I'll treat you to private healthcare, the illegal kind." Chapter 1048. Rin Pingxing and Wuxia entered the forbidden area. In front of the stone tablet, Wuxia said softly, "So there's a sect here." Rin Pingxing looked at Wuxia. "You didn't know?" Wuxia nodded. "I've never been here before." Rin Pingxing said, "Are you joking?" Wuxia said softly, "This is the forbidden area of the Heavenly Demon Tribe. The Elder Ancestor once issued a death order forbidding the descendants of the Heavenly Demon Tribe from entering this place." Rin Pingxing asked, "Why?" Wuxia said, "I don't know. Some of the ancestors of the Heavenly Demon Tribe disobeyed the Elder Ancestor's order and entered this place without permission. However, none of them ever came out." Rin Pingxing looked at the stone tablet. The Sword Sect. Speaking of this, his expression became a little gloomy. Because Yi Xian was a swordsman. Could the Sword Sect be related to Yi Xian? Rin Pingxing's expression darkened at this thought. As if knowing what Rin Pingxing was thinking, Wuxia suddenly said, "He shouldn't be related to the Sword Sect." Rin Pingxing looked at Wuxia. "Why do you think so?" Wuxia said softly, "Because Yi Xian clearly doesn't know what this forbidden area is. Moreover, I've investigated him. It's his first time in the fifth dimension and he's never been to the Heavenly Demon Tribe. Therefore he can't be related to the Sword Sect." Rin Pingxing nodded. "No matter what, we must get that study room." Wuxia nodded. In fact, he didn't want to be enemies with Yi Xian, but that study room was crucial to the Heavenly Demon Tribe. It was the key item that could protect the Heavenly Demon Tribe against the fifth dimension calamity. The fifth dimension calamity was too terrifying. Without that study room, the number of Heavenly Demon Tribe survivors could be counted on one hand. For survival. At this moment, Rin Pingxing suddenly said, "Let's go." Wuxia nodded. As the two were about to enter the Sword Sect, a white-haired elder suddenly appeared in front of them. Rin Pingxing narrowed his eyes when he saw the white-haired elder. There was a hint of seriousness and fear in his eyes. He had fought with this white-haired old man before, so he knew very well how powerful this white-haired old man was. Wuxia glanced at the white-haired elder and said, "You are?" At this moment, a sword suddenly rushed out from the sword box behind the white-haired old man. A sword light instantly killed Wuxia. The speed of the sword caused Wuxia and Wuxi's expressions to instantly change. Wuxia raised his arm to block. Boom. Wuxia was instantly sent flying several hundred feet away. Practically at the same time, Rin Pingxing was also sent flying several hundred feet away by a sword light. At this moment, both Wuxia and Lin Fan's faces turned serious. This white-haired old man's strength was even stronger than the two of them imagined. Rin Pingxing looked at the white-haired elder and said, "Sir, the two of us have no intention of becoming enemies with you." The white-haired old man glanced at Rin Pingxing and his companion. "Are you here for him?" Rin Pingxing nodded. "That's right. Your Excellency, the two of us are only looking for that Yi Xian. How dare you?" The white-haired old man suddenly shouted angrily. In the next moment, a sword light appeared in front of Rin Pingxing without any warning. Rin Pingxing's pupils constricted. A spear suddenly appeared in his hand, and he thrust it forward with all his might. Boom. Rin Pingxing was sent flying again. Not only that, but the sword light also shattered his spear. At this moment, a wave of black light suddenly engulfed the sword light. Boom. An explosion suddenly sounded from within the black light. In the distance, the white-haired old man turned to look at Wuxia. Wuxia said in a low voice, "Your Excellency, do you know that Yi Xian?" The white-haired old man looked at Wuxia. "How dare you?" As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly put his palms together. In an instant, an illusory sword instantly appeared above his head. At the instant that sword appeared, the expressions of the white-haired old man and Wuxia had instantly become solemn. The white-haired old man suddenly shouted angrily, "Slash!" As soon as he finished speaking, the sword above his head suddenly shot through the air. The space in the area was torn apart inch by inch. This sword was capable of destroying heaven and earth. Meanwhile, Ren Pingxing suddenly said, "Let's join forces." As soon as he finished speaking, he and Wuxia charged forward. Rumble. Suddenly, an explosion resounded like a thunderclap through the heavens and the earth. In midair, Ren Pingxing and Wuxia retreated repeatedly, and they moved 3 kilometers back. Both of them had even more solemn expressions on their faces when they stopped moving. The white-haired old man was about to attack again when a voice suddenly resounded from afar. "Forget it." The white-haired old man hesitated for a moment when he heard this voice, and then he moved aside. Wuxia and Ren Pingxing looked in the direction of the sword sect. There was a woman standing in the air above the sword sect's hull, and she had a smile on her face. Wuxia spoke in a low voice, "Hey, I know who you are?" The woman smiled, "Both of you want to kill Zhou Xian?" Wuxia gazed at her. "You intend to protect him?" The woman shook her head, No, we won't protect him. He has nothing to do with us." Wuxia and Ren Pingxing were stunned when they heard this. Meanwhile, the woman continued, "I'm asking him to do something for me right now and he'll leave once he's done. At that time both of you can go kill him." Ren Pingxing and Wuxia glanced at each other, and there was a trace of bewilderment in their eyes. The white-haired old man glanced at his young miss and didn't dare speak. The woman suddenly smiled and said, "It's true. We have nothing to do with him. Both of you can leave. He'll leave immediately once he's done with me. At that time both of you can go kill him." Wuxia hesitated for a moment and said, "Why don't you leave him to us right now?" The woman's eyes narrowed slightly. "Believe it or not, I'll kill both of you." Wuxia and Ren Pingxing's expressions instantly became unsightly when they heard this. Why does this woman suddenly change her attitude? Ren Pingxing intended to say something else when Wuxia spoke abruptly, "Let's go." As soon as he finished speaking, he didn't give Ren Pingxing a chance to speak before he turned around and vanished on the spot. Ren Pingxing immediately chose to leave when he saw Wuxia leave. Without Wuxia, he couldn't even defeat the white-haired old man, let alone the mysterious woman who had just appeared. After the two of them left, the white-haired old man looked at the mysterious woman. "Young miss," the mysterious woman smiled and said, "I know what you want to say, but I have to tell you that he has to solve his own problem." The white-haired old man said, "What if he can't solve it?" The mysterious woman smiled slightly and turned around to leave. Below, a trace of a smile appeared on the white-haired old man's face. At the sword catacomb, Zhou Xian was still communicating with the swordsman. At first he just listened and asked questions when he didn't understand. It didn't take long before he began to communicate with the swordsman. After all, he was an ordinary sword practitioner, and his attainment in sword principle was not low. During this period, Zhou Xian's sword principle knowledge had grown at a terrifying rate. Not only that, but he had also come into contact with countless sword principles and expanded his knowledge. During this period, Zhou Xian had learned to the point where he forgot himself. At the entrance to the forbidden area of Heavenly Demon City, Ren Pingxing stared at Wuxia. "Why should we retreat?" Wuxia said softly, "Can you defeat that mysterious woman?" Ren Pingxing was silent. Wuxia said again, "That woman's strength is unfathomable." Ren Pingxing said gloomily, "Are we just going to give up?" Wuxia said, "Didn't she say that she has nothing to do with Zhou Xian?" Ren Pingxing was silent. Wuxia said, "I'm afraid that woman is also using Zhou Xian. Anyway, we just need to wait for Zhou Xian to come out. Of course, if the sect master can find a strong expert to help us, we can fight our way in. Without the help of a strong expert, I'm afraid that the two of us are no match for her." Ren Pingxing said in a low voice, "We can't trust that woman." Wuxia looked at Ren Pingxing. "What do you want to do?" Ren Pingxing slowly closed his eyes. "No matter how strong that woman is, she can't be stronger than a sovereign. We just need to find 2 more sovereigns and the 4 of us will be able to suppress the 2 from the sword sect." Wuxia shook his head. "It won't be easy." Ren Pingxing suddenly opened his eyes. "I'll find them." Hearing this, Wuxia suddenly looked up at Ren Pingxing. Ren Pingxing said in a low voice, "One more thing. Why don't we let Yi Xian come out himself?" Wuxia frowned. Let him come out himself? At this point he seemed to have thought of something and paused for a moment. You mean against the Worldwide Academy? Ren Pingxing said, I'll find someone to help him. If the mysterious woman and the old man really don't help him, then it's fine. If they help him, then we'll fight them. With that he disappeared. In the field, Wuxia's face was gloomy. No one knew what he was thinking. In the sword catacomb. The mysterious woman walked into the sword catacomb. She looked at Yi Xian, who was talking to the swordsman in the distance, with a faint smile on her face. Yi Xian had been studying here for several days. During these days Yi Xian did not sleep or rest. Just like that, another few days passed. On this day Yi Xian suddenly sat down with his legs crossed. After a while his whole body was in meditation. The swordsman did not disappear. They were all there watching Yi Xian. The mysterious woman did not leave either. She looked at Yi Xian in the distance, thinking about something. Time passed slowly. About 3 days later, Yi Xian, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, suddenly opened his eyes. In his eyes there was a flash of sword light. Seeing this, the mysterious woman's lips curled up slightly. At this moment Yi Xian, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, stood up. Boom! A powerful sword intent suddenly swept out from his body, and the sky was like a tornado that shook the heavens and the earth. Yi Xian greedily took a deep breath. He slowly clenched his hands and an illusory sword suddenly condensed above his head. The sword essence soared into the sky. At this moment, the mysterious woman walked to Yi Xian's side. She glanced at Yi Xian and asked, "How do you feel?" Yi Xian took another deep breath and said, "I feel very good." The mysterious woman smiled. You still need to go through a thorough absorption process. However, this process can't be rushed. It has to be done slowly. Yi Xian nodded. He was about to speak when the space in front of him suddenly trembled. A moment later Yi Xian frowned deeply. The mysterious woman asked, "What's wrong?" Yi Xian said in a low voice, "The Tao Protectors and Heavenly Demon City are going to target my friends." As he spoke, he looked at the mysterious woman. "Sister Shui, I'm going back." The mysterious woman blinked and smiled mischievously. "Do you need help?" Yi Xian hurriedly said, "Yes. I really need it." Chapter 1049. The mysterious woman smiled when she heard Yi Xian. "I'm just joking." Yi Xian was speechless. The mysterious woman smiled. "You're leaving." "I'm leaving as well." Yi Xian frowned slightly. "Sister Shui is leaving?" The mysterious woman glanced at the surroundings and nodded. "It's time to leave as well." Yi Xian hesitated for a moment. "Where are you going, Sister Shui?" The mysterious woman smiled. "It's time to go back." Yi Xian spoke in a low voice. "Back to where?" The mysterious woman smiled. "Why do you have so many questions?" Yi Xian smiled embarrassedly. "I'm just curious." The mysterious woman grinned. "Curiosity kills you most of the time." Yi Xian said, "Sister Shui, will we meet again in the future?" The mysterious woman smiled. "Yes. Definitely." Yi Xian smiled. "Why?" The mysterious woman smiled. "See, you're asking again." Yi Xian was speechless. The mysterious woman glanced at Yi Xian and spoke softly. "Take good care of yourself. Cultivate well. Fight by our side in the future." Yi Xian nodded. A trace of reluctance suddenly arose in his heart. For some reason, even though he hadn't known the mysterious woman for long, he felt that she was very close and he felt that she wouldn't harm him. It was a very strange feeling. At this moment, the mysterious woman suddenly glanced at the swordsman behind Yi Xian and spoke softly. "I'll give you a gift." Yi Xian asked. "A mysterious gift?" The mysterious woman's lips curled up slightly, and her smile was slightly mischievous. Endless underground city within the pawn shop. Xiao Dao was snoring behind the counter. After some time, Xiao Dao suddenly raised her head and her brows furrowed slightly. At this moment, a middle-aged man walked into the pawn shop. It was the Heavenly Fiend clan leader, Wuxia. Wuxia glanced at Xiao Dao and spoke softly. "Miss Xiao Dao." Xiao Dao smiled and asked, "What's up?" Wuxia asked in a deep voice, "Miss Xiao Dao, do you know Yi Xian's true background?" Xiao Dao nodded. "I know." Wuxia bowed slightly and said, Please enlighten me, Miss Xiao Dao. Xiao Dao smiled. This question is very expensive. Wuxia hesitated for a moment and said, What does Miss Xiao Dao need? Xiao Dao shook his head. It's not about what I need but what you have. Wuxia pulled out a storage ring and placed it on the counter. Xiao Dao glanced at it before shaking his head. After a moment of silence, Wuxia took out another storage ring and placed it on the counter. However, Xiao Dao still shook his head. Wuxia frowned. So expensive? Xiao Dao smiled and said, It's all right. Wuxia said in a deep voice, Miss Xiao Dao, can you do me a favor? Xiao Dao looked at Wuxia. Your favor is worthless. It was very direct. Wuxia's expression instantly became unsightly. That's not giving me any face at all. Xiao Dao smiled. Patriarch Wuxia, if there's nothing else then please leave. Wuxia sighed softly. Miss Xiao Dao, according to what I know you have a close relationship with Zhou Xian. This time Xiao Dao suddenly interrupted Wuxia. I know the objective of you and the Dao Master. You've come here to kill Zhou Xian. I can tell you clearly that even though I have a good relationship with Zhou Xian, I won't go against my principles and help him. Wuxia spoke in a low voice. Who exactly is that woman behind him? Xiao Dao shook his head and smiled. This question is even more expensive than the previous one. Are you sure you want to ask that? Wuxia shook his head slightly. Miss Xiao Dao, I'm afraid the Sky Devil tribe doesn't have what you need. Xiao Dao chuckled. All right. I'll give you something for free. Leave now and go back to your Sky Devil city to stay. Wuxia frowned slightly. Why? Xiao Dao shook his head and sighed. You see, I told you to leave but you won't be satisfied. Since you're not satisfied, why ask me? Wuxia was silent. Xiao Dao did not speak either. He picked up an ancient book and began to read. In the pawn shop, after a moment of silence, Wuxia said, Sorry to disturb you. With that he turned and disappeared. In the pawn shop, Xiao Dao shook his head. No one knew what he was thinking. At the Worldwide Academy. Under the leadership of the headmaster and Zhang Wenxiu, the Worldwide Academy had completely recovered. Not only that, under the headmaster's call, many tutors who had left the academy returned to the academy. The Worldwide Academy could be said to be thriving. In a courtyard, the headmaster and Zhang Wenxiu sat opposite each other. The headmaster picked up the teacup in front of him and took a sip. Then he said, Recently, I have a feeling that something bad is going to happen. Zhang Wenxiu looked at the headmaster. Is it because of him? The female headmaster nodded. Ever since we were with him, the fate of the academy and our fates have become inseparable from him. Zhang Wenxiu was silent. The female headmaster smiled. During this period I have investigated many things. Zhang Wenxiu looked at the female headmaster. The female headmaster said, This is a chaotic era. Super powerhouses and super forces from different eras are gathered in this era. This is definitely not a good thing. Zhang Wenxiu said calmly, We will deal with it when it comes. The female headmaster smiled. You are optimistic. Zhang Wenxiu was just about to speak. Right at this moment she suddenly raised her head to look towards the sky, and a shapeless pressure had suddenly swept down from the sky above the Myriad Dimension Academy. The female headmaster said softly, Look at my intuition. Zhang Wenxiu dodged with her right foot and her whole body turned into a spear radiance that shot up into the sky. Now Zhang Wenxiu's strength surpassed that of the female headmaster. This was because she had the spear that the old blacksmith had forged for her and the power of her own bloodline. In the sky, Zhang Wenxiu suddenly stopped. This was because at this moment the force was many times stronger than before. A cold light flashed in Zhang Wenxiu's eyes and the long spear in her hand stabbed forward. A spear radiance pierced the sky. Boom. The invisible force was directly pierced by the spear. At this moment, a shadow suddenly rushed towards Zhang Wenxiu. Boom. Zhang Wenxiu suddenly fell from the sky. When she landed on the ground, the entire ground exploded and became a pitch-black abyss. Zhang Wenxiu looked up and saw a middle-aged man standing in the sky. This man was the Taoist master of Tendo City, Ren Pingxing. Ren Pingxing looked at Zhang Wenxiu. You're quite interesting. Zhang Wenxiu looked at Ren Pingxing. Who are you? Ren Pingxing said, Taoist master. Zhang Wenxiu frowned. Protector. Ren Pingxing nodded. Yes. Zhang Wenxiu smiled. Your real target is Zhou Xian, right? Ren Pingxing said, yes. Zhang Wenxiu smiled. Why don't you go and find him directly? Ren Pingxing said softly. He's not coming out. Zhang Wenxiu nodded slightly. I understand. Clearly the other party wanted to use the Worldwide Academy to force Yi Xian to show himself. But where did this guy go? In the sky, Ren Pingxing looked down at the Worldwide Academy with a complicated look in his eyes. This was the academy founded by the Prophet. Ren Pingxing had some respect for the Prophet. He had gone to the Tendo Galaxy many years ago. Although he had almost destroyed the Tendo Galaxy, Ren Pingxing could not bring himself to hate the Prophet. The Prophet was a man worthy of respect. At this moment Wuxia suddenly appeared. Wuxia looked down and said, Is Yi Xian not going to show himself yet? Ren Pingxing said, He will show himself. Then he opened his right palm and pressed down lightly. Boom. An invisible force suddenly swept down from the sky. Zhang Wenxiu's face darkened at the sight of this force. If this force were to fall, the entire Worldwide Academy would be razed to the ground. It was too powerful. A ferocious look flashed in Zhang Wenxiu's eyes. She held the spear in her right hand and shot up into the sky. A spear light exploded from the tip of the spear. Boom. The entire sky trembled violently. Ren Pingxing looked at the spear in Zhang Wenxiu's hand and said softly, That's a good spear. Unfortunately it's not enough. As soon as he finished speaking he suddenly smashed his fist down. Boom. An enormous fist swept down from the sky. Zhang Wenxiu's eyes narrowed slightly, and then she tossed the spear up into the sky. The spear tore through the air and pierced the sky. It didn't take long for the spear to strike the fist. Boom. The spear shook violently and then it cracked apart and fell from the sky. However, the fist had cracked open into a spider web as well. Zhang Wenxiu reached out with her right hand and grabbed the falling spear. However, Zhang Wenxiu's expression changed drastically as soon as she did. Boom. The space around Zhang Wenxiu was instantly obliterated. At the same time, a wisp of blood flowed out of her mouth. She was heavily injured. Zhang Wenxiu looked up at Ren Pingxing in the sky. Her expression was extremely solemn. The person in front of her was not someone she could defeat. In the sky, Ren Pingxing looked down at Zhang Wenxiu. He was about to strike again when a voice suddenly came from the side. You're looking for me? Ren Pingxing turned to look. Not far away, a man was walking slowly toward him. It was Yi Xian. Zhang Wenxiu looked at the approaching Yi Xian. She wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and felt relieved. This guy had finally appeared. Yi Xian walked up to Zhang Wenxiu and wiped the blood from the corner of Zhang Wenxiu's mouth. Then he took out a drop of the super spring of life and fed it to Zhang Wenxiu. I'll wipe out his entire family for hurting my woman. Yi Xian will wipe out his entire family. Zhang Wenxiu looked at Yi Xian without saying a word. At this time Ren Pingxing looked at Yi Xian. You've changed. Yi Xian turned to look at Ren Pingxing and smiled. Have I become more handsome? Ren Pingxing said calmly, Yi Xian, I'll give you one last chance. I can spare your life, but you must hand over Xiao Ta and the Universal Library. Hand them over, and the two of us will immediately return to Tendo Galaxy. Yi Xian was silent. Ren Pingxing said again, This is your last chance. Don't make a mistake. Yi Xian smiled. What if I don't agree? Ren Pingxing looked at Yi Xian. Then you can call the undefeatable arrow behind you now. Then he smiled. Or the woman in the plain dress behind you. P.S. Why are there so few monthly votes? Chapter 1050. Hearing Ren Pingxing's words, Zhang Wenxiu, who was standing next to Yi Xian, suddenly became solemn. Why would Ren Pingxing say that? It was simple. They had the confidence. They had come to find Yi Xian this time, clearly prepared for anything. Thinking of this, Zhang Wenxiu turned to look at Yi Xian with a hint of worry in her eyes. Yi Xian did not pay attention to Ren Pingxing. Instead he turned around and said with a smile, Miss Daoist. As soon as he spoke, a woman appeared in the space where he was looking. The person who came was little Daoist. Seeing Xiao Dao, Ren Pingxing and Wuxia's expressions darkened. If Xiao Dao was helping Yi Xian, then things would be very, very troublesome. As if knowing what Ren Pingxing and Wuxia were thinking, Xiao Dao suddenly smiled. Don't think too much, I'm here purely to watch the show, that's all. You fight your battles, I'll watch mine. Ren Pingxing glanced at Xiao Dao. No one knew what he was thinking. At this moment Yi Xian suddenly looked at Wuxia and smiled. Senior Wuxia, Yi Xian will remember your help that day. If you leave now, I, Yi Xian, will still be good friends with the Heavenly Fiend clan. Wuxia looked at Yi Xian. Friend Yi, if you're willing to hand over the World Prison Pagoda and the study, the Heavenly Fiend clan will not be your enemy. Yi Xian smiled. He opened his palm and the universal study appeared in his hand. He looked at Ren Pingxing and Wuxia in the sky. The study is right here, come and get it. Ren Pingxing narrowed his eyes at Yi Xian's words. Fearless. At this moment Ren Pingxing and Wuxia were even more cautious. At this moment Ren Pingxing suddenly said, let's attack together. As soon as he spoke, he and Wuxia disappeared on the spot. The two of them joined forces. Obviously, the two of them wanted to kill Yi Xian with a single strike. At this moment, a white-haired elder suddenly appeared in front of Yi Xian. Two sword beams suddenly soared into the sky from the sword box behind the white-haired elder. Buzz. Two sword cries shook the world. Rumble. In the blink of an eye, Ren Pingxing and Wuxia retreated thousands of feet. Seeing this white-haired elder, Wuxia and Ren Pingxing, who had stopped, suddenly looked terrible. This person was none other than the old swordsman from the mysterious forbidden area. In the distance, Xiao Dao looked at the white-haired old man. No one knew what he was thinking. The white-haired old man looked at Ren Pingxing and Wuxia in the sky and his eyes were filled with disdain. How dare you ants dream of killing my young master? Young master. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone in the surroundings was stunned. Yi Xian was also stunned. He looked at the white-haired old man. Old Gu. Young master? Old Gu glanced at Yi Xian, and then he hesitated for a moment before he said, you're the younger brother of the young miss, so you should be the young master. Yi Xian blinked. Is that even possible? Old Gu paid no attention to Yi Xian. He raised his head to look at Ren Pingxing and Wuxia while a wisp of disdain arose on the corners of his mouth. How dare ants like you think of killing my young master? What a delusion. As soon as he finished speaking, he swiftly dodged with his right leg. Bang! In front of everyone's eyes, a sword light soared into the sky. Ren Pingxing and Wuxia's expressions were extremely solemn. The strength of this old swordsman was extraordinarily formidable. Moreover, he called Yi Xian young master. A bad feeling arose in Wuxia's heart. However, he had no way out now. He didn't have the time to think because the ray of light had already slashed down towards him. Meanwhile, Ren Pingxing spoke abruptly. Keep him busy. As soon as he finished speaking, Ren Pingxing charged towards Yi Xian. Wuxia's expression changed. Keep him busy? Would he be able to keep him busy? Not daring to be careless, Wuxia roared angrily and put his palms together. A gigantic heavenly demon statue suddenly appeared behind him. The next moment, the heavenly demon statue slammed its palm against the ray of light. Bang! A deafening explosion suddenly sounded in the sky. At this moment, Ren Pingxing had already arrived above Yi Xian's head. Yi Xian was about to strike when the ray of light instantly appeared in front of Ren Pingxing. Bang! Ren Pingxing returned to his original position. In the sky, a pitch-black crack that was hundreds of feet long had appeared out of nowhere. It had been created by a sword. Ren Pingxing looked down at old Gu with an extremely solemn expression. This old man's strength was too terrifying. Ren Pingxing and Wuxia's expressions were extremely ugly. This old swordsman could not be held back by one person. Ren Pingxing suddenly turned to look up into the sky. Master! An old man suddenly appeared in the sky. Xiao Dao gazed at the old man and frowned slightly. You're the previous Dao Lord Immerse. Immerse gazed at Xiao Dao. Miss Xiao Dao, you're still as elegant as ever since we last met. Xiao Dao smiled. Why didn't you continue your closed-door cultivation? Why have you come out to join in the fun? Immerse shook his head while a trace of confusion could be seen in his eyes. It's impossible for me to attain the legendary self-release realm in my lifetime. As he spoke, he gazed down at the white-haired old man. I'll keep him busy. As soon as he finished speaking, he vanished on the spot. Old Gu's eyes narrowed slightly and then he opened his right hand, one with the world. As soon as he finished speaking, an illusory sword suddenly appeared above him, and then he suddenly became one with the sword. Bang! A sword howl shook the heavens and the earth. Bang! In the sky, Missouri Shuzi was suddenly blasted back into the void. The expressions of Ren Pingxing and the others became unsightly once more when they witnessed this scene. Immerse gazed down at old Gu. What a formidable swordsman. As he spoke, he gazed at Wuxia. join forces with me. As soon as he finished speaking, he and Wuxia vanished on the spot. Old Gu frowned slightly and then he turned around to look at Zhou Xian. Young master, watch out. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly took off the sword chest on his back, and then he slapped his palm against it. Bang! In an instant, countless rays of light surged out explosively from within the sword chest, and then the entire sky was instantly covered in countless rays of light. Rumble! Rumble! Numerous explosions resounded incessantly in the sky while Ren Pingxing had arrived above Zhou Xian, and then he suddenly smashed his fist down. However, Zhou Xian leaped up and raised his sword. Bang! An explosion resounded, and then Zhou Xian was pushed over 1 kilometer back while Ren Pingxing was pushed over 100 m back as well. After he stopped, Ren Pingxing was stunned for a moment and then he gazed at Zhou Xian. How could this be possible? Your sword? At that moment he realized that Zhou Xian was much stronger than before. Previously Zhou Xian could not fight back against him, but now the current Zhou Xian could fight against him. And how young was Zhou Xian? He was too much of a monster. Just as Ren Pingxing was about to attack, Zhou Xian suddenly took out a shield. Zimmer shield. Zhou Xian looked at Ren Pingxing. Come on. As soon as he finished speaking, he charged at Ren Pingxing. Ren Pingxing narrowed his eyes and swung his palm down. In the distance, Zhou Xian raised the shield in his left hand and blocked it. Bang! Zhou Xian and his shield retreated hundreds of meters in an instant. However, he managed to withstand Ren Pingxing's strength. After all, he not only had the Sumeru shield but he also had the Torch Dragon armor. Ren Pingxing was about to attack again when he suddenly turned to look at the sky. There the ancient figure had firmly suppressed Wuxia and Mo Wuzi. Seeing this, Ren Pingxing's expression darkened. He knew that Moxuzi and Wuxia would not be able to hold out for long. At this thought, Ren Pingxing looked at Zhou Xian and said fiercely, "Then let us all perish together." As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly blasted a palm into the sky. Bang! A huge pitch-black hole suddenly appeared in the sky, and within that black hole was a teleportation portal. Soon, powerful auras suddenly emerged from the black hole. Seeing this, Zhou Xian frowned. The other party was going to teleport all the cultivators from the Tendo galaxy here. They were going to gang up on him. Zhou Xian was silent for a moment. He opened his palm and a teleportation talisman appeared in his hand. He immediately crushed the talisman. Bang! Behind Zhou Xian, a huge teleportation portal suddenly appeared. Soon a powerful aura appeared and an elder walked out. This person was the sect leader of the Tai sect, Yuan Yi. Seeing Zhou Xian, Yuan Yi nodded slightly. "Young friend Yi," Zhou Xian said, "Senior Yuan Yi, I need the Tai sect's help." Yuan Yi glanced at Ren Pingxing in the sky and frowned. Sect leader. Ren Pingxing also looked at Yuan Yi. Tai sect. Yuan Yi was silent. Ren Pingxing said in a low voice, "Sect leader Yuan Yi, this matter has nothing to do with you. Please do not interfere." Yuan Yi smiled. "You must be joking." As soon as he finished speaking, he opened his palm and a token arrow suddenly disappeared. In an instant, a powerful aura emerged from the teleportation portal behind Zhou Xian. Seeing this, Ren Pingxing narrowed his eyes. "Is it worth it for the Tai sect to do this for Zhou Xian?" Yuan Yi shook his head. "One must keep his word." As soon as he finished speaking, countless cultivators from the Tai sect appeared behind him. It could be said that the Tai sect had sent out all of their cultivators. At this time, the cultivators from the Tendo galaxy also appeared. In terms of lineup and numbers, the Tai sect was inferior to the Tendo galaxy. In the sky, Ren Pingxing looked at Yuan Yi. "Sect leader Yuan Yi, I'll give you one last chance. Leave with the Tai sect now and I'll pretend that nothing happened." Yuan Yi was silent. At this time, just as Zhou Xian was about to speak, Yuan Yi smiled and said, "If I leave now, I really won't be able to keep my face." Ren Pingxing nodded. "If that's the case, then the Tai sect will be buried with Zhou Xian." As soon as he finished speaking, he looked at Zhou Xian below. In the sky, countless cultivators from the Tendo galaxy swooped down. Yuan Yi's expression turned ferocious. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly dodged with his right foot and shot up into the sky. Behind him were countless cultivators from the Tai sect. Zhou Xian turned to look at Gu Gu, who was not far away. At this time, Gu Lai was firmly suppressing Moxuzi and Wuxia, but it was still difficult for Gu Gu to kill these two people. The Tai sect was no match for the Tendo galaxy. Yi Xian looked up at the sky. At this time, there were already cultivators from the Tai sect who had fallen. In the sky, Ren Pingxing suddenly swooped down. His target was Yi Xian, and beside him were two super cultivators from the city of Tendo. Obviously, he wanted to kill Yi Xian as soon as possible. At this time, the distant sky suddenly split open, and then a group of white-robed cultivators with swords rushed out. Great Wilderness Kingdom. Chapter 1051. Yi Xian was stunned when he saw the fighters from the Kingdom of Great Wilderness. Arrow was here, but he didn't see Arrow. With the appearance of the 100 people, the situation was reversed. These 100 white-robed fighters were too powerful. Each of them could fight 10 people at once. Ren Pingxing's expression darkened when he saw the 100 people. What he was worried about had happened. With the intervention of the Kingdom of Great Wilderness, it meant that Arrow was openly on Yi Xian's side. There was no way out. Ren Pingxing turned to look at Wuxia, who was not far away. Call your people over. In the distance, Wuxia, who was fighting with Elder Gu, suddenly stopped. He looked to the other side, and after a moment of silence he waved his right hand. The space behind him split open, and soon countless fighters from the Heavenly Fiend clan flew out. In an instant the entire worldwide academy was filled with demons. In the sky, Ren Pingxing looked down at Yi Xian. Yi Xian, I'll ask you one last time. Are you going to hand it over or not? If not, countless people will die because of you today. Below, Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. Boom. All of a sudden, countless sword essences surged out of Yi Xian's body. Gradually the space around Yi Xian became turbulent like boiling water. In the sky, Ren Pingxing's eyes narrowed, and his expression gradually turned ferocious. Since you want to die, I'll grant you your wish. With that, his body gradually became illusory, and a blood-red flame suddenly appeared around him. With the appearance of this flame, the temperature of the entire world suddenly rose, and it became hotter and hotter as if it was about to burn the world. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded in Yi Xian's mind. Hellfire, the hellfire refined by Tendo to maintain the order of time. This fire is the nemesis of souls, don't be careless. Yi Xian looked at Yuan Yi in the distance. It was Yuan Yi who had just spoken. Yi Xian nodded slightly, his right hand quietly holding the executing heaven sword. In the sky, Ren Pingxing suddenly roared, "Die!" As soon as he finished speaking, the flames around him suddenly swept down from the sky. Pist 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 pist. Wherever the flame passed, the space was annihilated. The experts in the surroundings fled in all directions to avoid the flames because they were too strong. The flame itself was extremely powerful, and with a sovereign realm expert controlling it, its might could be said to be capable of destroying the heavens and earth. Clearly, Ren Pingxing wanted to kill Yi Xian. Down below, Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. At this moment, Zhang Wenxiu suddenly appeared next to him. Yi Xian turned his head to look at Zhang Wenxiu. Zhang Wenxiu said calmly, "Is there a problem?" Yi Xian smiled. "Do you want to die with me?" Zhang Wenxiu looked at Yi Xian. "Can you block it?" The corners of Yi Xian's mouth curled up. He dodged with his right foot and shot into the sky. When he was in the sky, the smile in Yi Xian's eyes widened. His Sumeru shield suddenly disappeared. Not only did the Sumeru shield disappear, but the torch dragon armor also disappeared. Only his physical body was left. Ren Pingxing frowned when he saw this. What was Yi Xian trying to do? At this moment, a powerful aura of death suddenly appeared around Yi Xian. The moment this aura of death appeared, the flame immediately engulfed Yi Xian. Everyone in the surroundings was shocked when they witnessed this scene, but it wasn't long before they were stunned once more. Because Yi Xian was completely unscathed within the flame. Not only was he completely unscathed, but he was also smiling. Ren Pingxing's pupils shrank when he saw this. How is this possible? Within the flame, Yi Xian had a faint smile on his face. Undying form. In the face of Ren Pingxing's strongest attack, Yi Xian did not dare to be careless. He immediately activated his undying form. In fact, he had been very worried in the beginning because he was not sure if his undying form could block the karmic fire. After all, the karmic fire was too powerful. Fortunately, his undying form was very strong. He did not feel anything when the karmic fire burned him. Yi Xian suddenly slashed with his sword. Boom! The karmic fire was repelled by his sword. At the same time, Yi Xian rushed to Ren Pingxing and slashed with his sword. Ren Pingxing's mouth curled up ferociously. Let's see how much of a monster you are." With that he charged forward at an extremely fast speed. Before Yi Xian's sword could reach his head, his fist had already landed on Yi Xian's abdomen. Bang! Yi Xian retreated thousands of meters in an instant, but he was completely unharmed. Not only that, but a black aura appeared on Ren Pingxing's right fist. It was the aura of death, and the aura of death was madly devouring his hand. Ren Pingxing frowned slightly. "Is Yi Xian all right?" In the distance, Yi Xian was also a little stunned. Strictly speaking, this was the first time he had used his undying form. At first he had some doubts about his undying form, but now he had no doubts at all. He was invincible for a short period of time. Of course, at this moment he also realized that there were strong and weak sovereigns. Arrow's strength was definitely far superior to Ren Pingxing's, because his intuition told him that his undying form was ineffective against Arrow. Without hesitation, Yi Xian charged at Ren Pingxing. At this moment he was invincible. Seeing Yi Xian charging at him, Ren Pingxing narrowed his eyes. He opened his palm and the karmic fire gathered in his palm. In the next moment he disappeared, and at the same time, a flame instantly engulfed Yi Xian. Rumble. A powerful burning force directly burned the space around Yi Xian into nothingness. However, Yi Xian was still unharmed. It was as if the flame did not burn him at all. Seeing this, Ren Pingxing's expression became even more unsightly. He knew that Yi Xian's physical body was extremely strong, and had reached the immortal realm. However, at this moment Yi Xian's physical body was not just strong, it was invincible. Even the karmic fire could not hurt him? What kind of physical body was this? Ren Pingxing's heart was full of doubts. At this moment Yi Xian charged at him again. This time Yi Xian used the wings of the demon, and his speed could be said to have reached his limit. Ren Pingxing did not dodge. He punched at Yi Xian's abdomen. His speed was faster than Yi Xian's, and he punched Yi Xian's head first. Yi Xian was sent flying again, but the moment he was sent flying, Ren Pingxing's sword slashed at Ren Pingxing's head. A faint sound of slicing resounded. A faint sword mark appeared on Ren Pingxing's head. His physical body was not as strong as Yi Xian's. Moreover, Yi Xian's sword was the strengthened version of the Executing Heaven sword. However, Yi Xian was usually fine after taking a punch from him head-on. Ren Pingxing wiped off the blood on his forehead, and then he looked at Yi Xian. He was about to attack again when the howl of a sword resounded from afar. He turned around and saw Mo Shuzi being pushed back by Gugu's attack. At this moment, Mo Shuzi's body was covered in sword marks. Mo Shuzi was still fine, but Wuxia was in a worse state. His heavenly demon clone had been slashed into pieces, and even his right arm had been severed. At this moment, Mo Shuzi and Wuxia were unable to suppress Gugu. Meanwhile, Gugu turned around to look at Ren Pingxing with an icy cold gaze. A sword suddenly shot into the sky from the sword chest on his back. A ray of sword light instantly slashed towards Ren Pingxing. Ren Pingxing's expression changed drastically, and he waved his right hand, causing flames to drown the ray of sword light. Bang! The ray of sword light was incinerated into nothingness by the karmic fire. Just as Gugu was about to attack again, Ren Pingxing suddenly looked up. "What are you waiting for?" After a moment of silence, a crack suddenly appeared in the sky. In the next moment an eerie aura emanated from it, and soon an afterimage had arrived above Gugu's head. Gugu drew his sword and slashed. Buzz! The howl of the sword shook the heavens and earth. Rumble! With a loud explosion, Gugu and the afterimage retreated rapidly. When the afterimage stopped, everyone saw its true appearance. It was a man. His entire body was illusory, and a strange black aura floated around him. Yi Xian looked at the man and frowned. Who was this? Yi Xian seemed to have thought of something and turned to look at Xiao Dao not far away. Xiao Dao smiled and said, "His name is Saint Tianhua, an expert from the Tendo Galaxy. He is from the same generation as Lin Lang, and he was one of the founders of the Dao Protectors. There were 3 people who founded the Dao Protectors back then. No, strictly speaking, the other 2 were Lin Lang's followers." Saint Tianhua glanced at Xiao Dao, and there was murderous intent in the depths of his eyes, but he dared not show it. There was no one who did not fear Xiao Dao. Yi Xian suddenly smiled and said, "If I'm not wrong, the Heavenly Fiend clan also has an old monster like him, right?" Xiao Dao smiled and said, "You guessed right." At this moment Ren Pingxing suddenly looked at Wuxia and said angrily, "Wuxia, Are you still hiding your strength? If Yi Xian doesn't die, we'll all be doomed. Wuxia glanced at Yi Xian and his expression became extremely ugly. He never thought that the Heavenly Fiend clan and the Dao protectors would not be able to kill Yi Xian. Wuxia did not think too much about it and suddenly looked up at the sky. He slowly closed his eyes and said, "Ancestor, please." As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly crushed a talisman in his right hand. Boom! The space above Wuxia's head suddenly split open and soon, a powerful aura swept down from the sky. Then a white-haired old man dressed in black robes slowly walked out. The moment the black-robed old man walked out, the world became illusory. Yi Xian's expression became solemn and he turned to look at Xiao Dao. Xiao Dao smiled and said, "Demon Emperor Daoist, the second-generation ancestor of the Heavenly Fiend clan. You're very powerful." Demon Emperor Daoist glanced at Xiao Dao and said, "Lady Xiao Dao is still as graceful as ever." Xiao Dao smiled and said, "I won't get involved in your affairs. I'm just here to watch the show." After a moment of silence, Demon Emperor Daoist nodded slightly and dared not say anything else. When he was still a young man, he already knew that Xiao Dao was unfathomable, and he was still the same now. Demon Emperor Daoist collected his thoughts and turned to look at Saint Tianhua not far away. "I never thought that we'd join forces." Saint Tianhua said calmly, "Let's cut the nonsense. Are you going to do it or should I?" Demon Emperor Daoist looked at Yi Xian below and said softly, "This person is not to be underestimated. Let's not be careless. Let's attack together and not give him any chance." Saint Tianhua thought about it and nodded. "Right." As soon as he finished, all the experts in the sky charged down. Below, Yi Xian's eyes narrowed slightly. They're going to play with their lives. At that moment, Elder Gu suddenly appeared in front of Yi Xian. He looked at the experts in the sky and sneered, "Do you think my sword sect has no one?" As soon as he finished, he opened his palm and a small token suddenly shot into the sky. The next moment, the token disappeared into the space. In an unknown star field, several sword lights suddenly cut through the space, shuttling through the endless star field. Not far away, Xiao Dao said softly, "The number one force of the fifth dimension is going to appear in such a way? P.S. This year is not peaceful. Everyone be careful and don't run around. There are many